One. We have 6 pieces of legislation today, and then we have the presentation from Digital C. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hear the legislation first. I apologize in advance to our guests who are here, but I think that presentation from Digital C is going to take a lot longer than it is going to take for us to get through our legislation. So if our guests could please just be so kind, be patient, let us get the legislation underway. This way we can have all the time we need to hear the Digital C. So Director, if you'd like to come up and with any of your commissioners or anything. Good morning, Director.
Good morning, Chairman.
We'll jump right into it. Ordinance number 706, 2023, by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to execute a deed of sidewalk easement and a deed of temporary construction easement, granting to the city of Brecksville certain easement rights and property needed for its Oaks Road Sidewalk Improvement Project at the city's Blossom Hill Water Towers property, and declaring the easement rights not needed for the city's public use. Director?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. The Division of Water does own the Blossom Hill Water Towers in the city of Brecksville. They have an exciting project proposed to link trails, improvements that will help create a public walking, biking connection for the Metro Parks Valley Parkway Trail north to sidewalks that run along East Royalton Road. Cassie Slansky from MOCAP is here for details. Recommend approval.
And obviously, this is just giving them the easement rights, no money involved at all whatsoever.
It is waiving an estimated value of $4,000, Chairman, to the committee, which we at the Department of Public Utilities feel is a good way of doing business to support different modes of transportation in the city of Brecksville.
Any questions from the committee?
I just want to make a brief comment.
Yes.
Comment through the chair to the other side of the table. Ms. Lansky, I've never met you. I've emailed with you many times. You do great work, and I'm just glad to meet you at the table today. So, thanks. Thanks, Director.
Is this your first time at the table?
No, I used to work in ED a few years back, and then I just recently came back to the city.
All right. You use the.
Sorry.
All right. So you're here representing MOCAP.
Correct.
For this,
yes.
and MOCAP's in agreement with this.
Yep.
All right. Hearing no other questions, 706, 2023 stands approved. Please sign up. Ordinance number 767, 2023, by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to enter into various written standard purchase and requirement contracts with Itron Incorporated for the purchase of meters and related equipment and services and labor and materials to provide modifications to existing equipment for a period of 3 years, and authorizing the director to enter into one or more contracts with Itron Incorporated to provide hardware and software maintenance and to upgrade existing software systems for the Department of Public Utilities for a period of 1 year, with 2 one-year options to renewable exercised by the Director of Public Utilities. Director, is this a direct award?
It is, Chairman. Council should be very familiar with Itron. They have been our proprietary vendor of the technology, which automatically collects consumption, diagnostic, and status data from meters, transfers that to CCNB, our customer care and billing system, for billing purposes, as well as other troubleshooting and analysis. This is for a period of 2 years, with 1 additional year, which would need additional legislative authority. Anticipated amount is approximately $1 million for necessary repairs, upgrades, and replacement.
And this is a direct award because this is their equipment, correct?
It is, Chairman.
All right. Any questions on 767, 2023? Seeing none, 767, 2023 stands approved. Please sign up. Ordinance number 879, 2023, by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase of 1 or more requirement contracts of concrete, pipe adapters, repair saddles, and accessories to the Division of Water, Department of Public Utilities for a term of up to 2 years. Director?
Thank you, Chairman. Division of Water has approximately 400 miles of concrete pipe in our system. Pipe's not compatible with the couplings, clamps, and other fittings used to repair the ductile cast iron and steel mains that make up the rest of the system. This is going out to bid to get us a requirements contract to have the necessary pipe and couplings that we need to make the emergency repairs. So we want to have some in stock and also have the ability to quickly order it and get it in the event of an emergency repair.
And again, there's no funds at this time. This is just going out for bid.
Correct.
Any questions on 879, 2023? Seeing none, 879, 2023 stands approved. Please sign up. Ordinance number 880, 2023, by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts for disposal of debris at landfills, transfer stations, or recyclable reclaimed facility sites for the Division of Water, Cleveland Public Power, Water Pollution Control, Department of Public Utilities for a term of 2 years. Director?
Thank you, Chairman. Another kind of recurring piece of legislation, the Department of Public Utilities in all 3 divisions dig holes. When you dig the holes, you need to get rid of the spoils, and that is highly regulated by the Ohio EPA. So this would allow us to go out and get the necessary vendors to either accept the spoils, in certain instances transport the spoils. If it's an overnight job, then we transport it to a Cleveland Water CPP WPC facility, put it in a 40-yard dumpster that is provided by this vendor, and then taken to the facilities to properly dispose of and/or recycle in several instances.
And at this time, there's no dollar amount. This is to go out for bid for a contract?
It is to go out to bid. We estimate it to be approximately $1.2 million over the 2 years, split between the 3 divisions.
Who currently has the contract?
Current contractor is Boyus Excavating on Rockside Road in Valley View.
How are they doing?
It expires beginning of next year, but if we need to get out to bid. Boyus we've had good experiences with them. However, we're going to see what the market bears.
Nothing wrong with that. Any questions on 880, 2023? Councilman Bishop.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just so I understand, the current vendor is Boyus. So are these vendors listed, are these the ones that will be, the RFP will be basically pitched to, these vendors on the list?
Through the chairman of the council member, that's correct. On the second page of the executive summary, that's the current mailing list for these services. But I know it's always refreshed both by the Office of Procurement and OEO.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, also, will it be just one contractor doing all the work, or will you employ several of these vendors?
Through the chairman of the council member, historically, typically it is one vendor because it's not a consistent flow of work. Like, it's not a lot of work, but we budget for the event of serious events. Like, we need the budget for a lot of emergencies, but we hope for a few emergencies. So it's hard to spread the work around to diversify the vendors. And also, as you can see by the mailing list, there's not a lot that are certified with the EPA to accept the spoils. So there's a lot of regulatory compliance on their part. But historically, a long way of saying that our anticipated application of this ordinance would be one vendor.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I see on your list here, of your mailing list, there's only one Cleveland proper business in here. I see, all right. And then 0% OEO found that it is impractical to subcontract portions of this contract. Can you just speak on that real quick?
So the evaluation that's done by the chairman, apologies, the evaluation that's done by the Office of Equal Opportunity analyzes whether any portions of this can be or should be awarded to a sub. This is a debris removal, so they have to have the trucks and they have to have the place to take the spoils. So it's very unlikely that a trucking company would have a sub as to the landfill or vice versa.
Okay. All right, any other questions on 880, 2023? Seeing none, 880, 2023 stands approved. Please sign up. Ordinance number 881, 2023, by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase, thanks, Commissioner, authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts for various types of electrical test equipment and labor materials necessary to maintain and repair electrical test equipment, including training when necessary, and maintenance for the Division of Cleveland Public Power, Department of Public Utilities for a period of 2 years. Director?
Thank you, Chairman. The Division of Cleveland Public Power does an extensive amount of testing of the electrical equipment, both for regulatory compliance through NERC and FERC, but also for the regular operation and safety of our employees. This would allow us to go out to bid and acquire one or more requirement contract of electrical test equipment, which includes training and materials, training and labor and materials to maintain and repair existing equipment.
Can you give us an example of what the testing material or equipment is? I mean, explain to us kind of what this is all about.
Yes, the high voltage cable tests for quality control, but also the fault location equipment if there is underground wires, and the commissioner is certainly more well-versed in this than I am. But if there is an underground fault, there is specialty electrical equipment to assist our crews in identifying the location of that fault and then safely repairing it. Also, a lot of the monitoring and reporting that we do to the federal regulatory agencies is done through testing equipment as to the fluctuations in voltage and things to that nature. But I guess that would be the examples that I know about.
Okay.
I think there's more.
All right. And this is just to go out to bid, correct?
That's correct, Chairman.
Authority to go out to bid, so no funds. What's the anticipated?
Approximately, we budget $100,000 a year.
Okay. Any questions on 881, 2023? Seeing none, 881, 2023 stands approved. Please sign up. And then finally, ordinance number 882, 2023 by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more requirement contracts without competitive bidding with ST Engineering Telematics Wireless LTD for proprietary adaptive control photo cells needed for LED streetlights and security lighting fixtures for the Division of Cleveland Public Power, Department of Public Utilities for a term of 2 years. Director, I think we've been waiting on this one for quite a long time because in layman's term, this is the piece of legislation that's finally going to make the whole city and their streetlights LED available, correct?
Yes, Chairman, and I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the work of Executive Commissioner Danielle Graham, who has been involved in this from the beginning, but certainly since she moved into the current position has been instrumental in getting us to this point. This is the adaptive controls of the LED streetlight. The 480 issue, I've talked to each of you individually and collectively about the issues we've had with the 480 volt LED fixtures and photo cells. It's been a year and a half, over 4 or 5 different iterations from a technology standpoint to get to where we are, which is a fix. So the 480s are those long stretches of streetlights in each of your wards along commercial corridors and or in sections of the city which CPP does not have existing infrastructure, as in Ward 16 and 17, the streetlights, there's a lot of 480 volt fixtures. When we did convert under the first technology and the iterations following, we had nothing but trouble with the flashing. Each of you had seen it. And the day burns and the inability for that fixture to speak to the operating system, which was critical of council's authority to give CPP to convert these streetlights. This is a direct award because Telematics was the developer of the photo cell, both for the 54,000 lights that we did convert, but also for the 480s, they didn't work. They didn't work the first time, and now a year and a half, 2 years later, we have the technology. We at the Department of Public Utilities have codified authority for the fixtures to purchase. We do not have the authority to direct award to Telematics for the photo cell. This is the Galaxy adaptive control photo cell that integrates with a proprietary application software. A long way of saying we are close, but we can't do it without this piece of legislation. Chairman.
And this, when this passes, if this passes, this will be, how long before all of those non-LED street lights will be converted to LED street lights now?
Now we have the authority to negotiate. We know that they have the capability of building the technology that works. Now we have to order 6,000 more photo cells and get those to us through Pepco, so this is a direct award to Telematics through the local provider, which is Pepco. Pepco. This is direct to Telematics Pepco's listed on the back as the last contract, but it was always telematics.
Okay.
Sorry, I got confused.
Is that a long way of saying we don't know?
I mean,
we
as
still
quick
have-
as humanly possible.
Okay. All right. Any questions on 882, 2023? Councilwoman Spencer.
Thanks, Chairman Casey. I want to take the opportunity to make sure I understand a little bit more about the technology here, and it may or may not be related to this specific piece, but through the chair to the director or the commissioner, there is that interesting strobing. It seems like the LEDs don't tend to go out. That's a complaint I hear less often. More often I hear that it's that strobing issue. So my question through the chair would be, is this related to the strobing issue at all? And can you explain how this piece relates to that?
Through the chairman to the council member, yes. So the photocells inside of that fixture are, when there's and I don't remember the technical terms for it, but yes, the photocell is what's causing the strobing and the day burning, and the fact that that fixture is not reporting back to the operating system.
And thank you, and to clarify that final point through the chair, are all of 54,000 fixtures supposed to be reporting back when they're out?
Through the chairman and the council member, they are. But a critical piece that's missing is all of these photocells, which then interrupts the connectivity. So when they fall off, then some don't let us know when they're strobing, and then your constituents are calling you, and you're calling us to say, we bought something that's supposed to tell you this, which is unfortunate, which is why we've worked really hard to get to this point.
And then to further clarify through the chair, this piece of legislation is to purchase 6,000 photocells?
Yeah, estimated quantity of, I know that there are 60,000 streetlights that originally we planned on converting. We successfully converted 54,000, so it doesn't say 6,000 but that's the estimated quantity of photocells that we intend to purchase under this authority and then convert.
And then through the chair, for the existing LEDs that do seem to have the strobing or the day burning, that kind of thing, do they need new photocells, or what do we know about the existing ones that have already been converted?
Director?
Through the chairman to the council member, more than likely, yes, the photocell. And that's how we've been over these last year and a half as we're working on the technology. Some of the photocells work, and they work just fine. Some of them do not on the 480 volt fixtures. So we've been kind of using the parts that we've had it's a trial and error, which is no way to do business, but now we know that the technology exists, and we intend on converting.
Two more questions, I think, through the chair. One is, generally speaking, does the administration still want residents to call the outage reporting number if there is a streetlight outage, even though in theory we hope that the majority of these streetlights are reporting back?
Through the chairman of the council member, yes.
Doesn't hurt, right?
Correct.
And then my last question would be something I found confusing that my staff has been getting calls about as well. There seems to be some interplay actually between CEI's systems and ours when it comes to our LED streetlights. Sometimes we'll report and one of these issues, and then we kind of get a message back, oh, this is CEI's issue to address. So this is probably more brain damage than I'm prepared for to ask at the table. But curious if you can explain that interplay between the CEI system and CPP vis-a-vis our LED streetlights.
Director?
Thank you, chairman of the council member. It is complex. CPP doesn't have the infrastructure in every portion of the city, so there are instances where sections of the street lighting are powered by First Energy, so then we pay First Energy for that power that it consumes. And in certain instances, in the ward that you represent, specifically on Clifton recently, we are very familiar that there were fixes that needed to happen before it got to us. And it sounds like we're blaming, but we're not. I mean, it's just us continuing to work with First Energy to try to get these kind of one-offs done, but this one-off went on for a ridiculous amount of time, and we continue to work on our relationship with our partner.
through the chair, it actually doesn't sound like blaming at all. I think it's great to have a better understanding so we can more
That's-
effectively communicate that to
Agree.
constituents. So,
Agree. Thank you.
okay. Sounds good. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
A whole nother reason why CPP needs to expand its footprint to the far west side. Commissioner. Councilman Polensek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My honorable colleagues, to the director, to the commissioner, what I don't understand, and educate me, we spent approximately 13 million plus to have the LED lights put in initially, correct?
Chairman of the Councilman, that's correct.
There's no liability for the company put these in. We were told at the table, because I was here, we were told that this was going to do it. This was going to address all our issues. And I find constantly in this city that we get the upper and the lower radiator holes all the time. We think we're getting something, and then we find out after the fact we didn't get what we thought we were going to get. So there's no, explain that one to me. Someone needs to tell me that.
Yeah, it's through the chairman of the council member. It's been frustrating. We got what we paid for. We got the LED, the photo cells for the 480 volt fixtures exactly to spec. It didn't work, and this was going back 3-4 years back in the first pilot area when they were too bright, if you
Okay.
recall that whole scenario. So. We have engaged the law department, we have engaged the legal counsel for the vendor, and we've worked out a solution which is before you today. So the frustration is shared by all parties, but back when it first went out to RFP, the specs on the 480 volt on our system under accepted industry, what is the word? Whatever the word is about how they do it in the electrical universe, it strobed.
So this is going to cost us another $759,000, correct?
Through the chairman of the council member, that's correct. But it's still under, because this is the photo cell,
Yeah.
like I explained to the chairman.
Yeah.
The actual fixtures are in the codified, so we at the Department of Public Utilities can buy the fixtures, but this is a direct award to telematics for the photo cell, which is why I need legislative ordinance authority.
Okay. And what you're telling us at the table now, you weren't the director at the time we got the LEDs.
Through the chairman of the council member, that's correct.
Yeah, okay. So what you're telling us now at the table, this is going to do it.
It is my profound hope, through the chairman to the council member, if that's a word.
Commissioner,
use it.
what's your
Commissioner.
opinion?
Through the chair, I think it's essential. I think there's a reason they went through so many iterations. Hopefully not too technical, but it's essentially a voltage issue and a voltage regulation issue at the photo cell level. So it is a technical issue with a technical solution that I believe they found. Until we get 6,000 of those out there, I think we won't know if there is a small percent that might not work. My hope is, share with the director, my fervent hope is that we don't run into any further issues.
Yeah. Okay. The proof will be in the pudding. And do we tape these here?
Yeah, you can find it on YouTube.
Yeah. Because I like to go back. No, I know that, but I'm talking about are they kept?
Yeah.
Because, boy, I like to go back over the years and look at some of the stuff we were told at this table, you know? That'd be like a comedy show right there, you know, for some of the stuff, you know?
I believe you can go back and find everything on
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Director or Commissioner, to reiterate, these are for basically all the corridors, right? These aren't in the residential side streets.
That's
correct?
That's correct, Chairman.
Right, this is.
Every neighborhood has been positively impacted by this project.
Right.
Except 6,000 of the 60,000, primarily downtown Cleveland, and those commercial corridors.
Puritas.
Puritas, Rucker Drive,
Right.
Maria Road, Kinsman.
Okay.
I don't do
Mr. Chairman,
Any other questions?
you have a question for him.
Councilman Conwell.
When you mention, you know me, Mr. Chairman, I don't go by hope. I mean, you're the commissioner over CPP, is that correct, through the chair? All right, so what you mean by hope? You meet with your people, and if you see any issues or concerns, or you see a threat coming, you're gonna hope, or you're gonna measure it, or you're gonna monitor and control it. Hope, you can be back at the table like Councilmember Mike Polisic just mentioned. Hope means nothing to me. Measuring where we at means more to me, to the chair, to the commissioner, as well as the director.
And that's a very good point through the chairman of the council member. I mean, and given the breadth of the installation of 6,000, they're not leaving that fixture until it's speaking to Bright City and it's operating, properly operating. So because it's such a smaller percentage of the significant portion, so
Right.
Our hope is on the technological side, is on the photo cell itself with the regulation of the voltage. We don't do that. We didn't build this thing, right? But we've tested every single one over a year and a half to see which one has worked on a consistent basis on every section of the 480 system. So we are confident that this is it, and we will closely monitor the installation and make sure that we don't leave that pole until that fixture is working properly. So agree, it was a poor choice of words, but this is not a fourth and long. This is not a Hail Mary. This is a lot of work that went into this with our partner Telematics to identify a problem, a solution, and now this piece of legislation will give us the authority to implement it.
So let me ask you one question with this, with purchasing and procurement. To the chair, who was talking with them to make sure, when you purchase anything, you look at three things: quality, service, and pricing. Pricing is last. But the quality, then you look at lessons learned. Where has this been, let's say, did you look at what happened in Pittsburgh or anywhere else when we look at lessons learned so we can measure the quality? To the chair, to the director.
Through the chairman of the council member, absolutely. And we had those conversations both before when we started and then incrementally through the process. This technology doesn't exist anywhere else.
Okay,
That's
yeah, I know
why
what you
it's a
meant.
direct award to Telematics. They developed it specifically for our system, specifically for these 480 volt fixtures, which is
Right.
not industry standard. And those are the lessons learned.
Okay.
But now we have to deal with the issues at hand, which is 480 volt streetlights that are not functioning up to our citizens' expectations.
Right.
So we have to fix it.
And do me one favor, and then I'll yield, Mr. Chairman, thank you. When we put up to the commissioner, you know, I ride my neighborhood at night, and some of the lights, there's vegetation, and you have trees just flapping in front of the lights, and I might think that the light is out, and we put the light there, and it's not benefiting my residents because you got to cut back the vegetation so that they can see, and that will help us to prevent crime, and people will feel safer. To the chair, to the commissioner.
Through the chair, vegetation management throughout the city is definitely a collaboration between us and urban forestry. I think when we talk about budget, you'll see that we do expend a significant amount of money on maintaining that. I will say that is something that requires physical presence to see. So to Councilwoman Spencer's point, we do appreciate reports of issues similar to that so that they can be resolved.
Well, see, Jim Ferguson is still with you, right, to the chair?
Correct.
I'm going to reach out to him, and then we'll drive my neighborhood, and we'll write down some vegetation that need to be trimmed down, and, you know, so that the residents will be able to see. Because you put the lights there, and the vegetation is in the way, then that's not efficient.
Chairman of the
Turn
council
this
member,
off.
we would have, and if you could just let us know, because we will join you.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions on 882, 2023? Seeing none, 882, 2023 stands approved. Please sign up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody have? Yes. Go ahead.
Chairman, I would be remiss if I didn't say to the director and to the commissioner, and I'm looking forward to the next committee hearing where there's going to be a piece of legislation dealing with utilizing outside contractors to augment Cleveland Public Power response, allegedly. But I'd be remiss if I did not express my complete and absolute dismay with what happened on August 24th through August 29th on the northeast side of the city with regard to the storm that came through and ultimate power outages. People in my ward without power for 5 days. 5 days. They lost everything in their refrigerator. They lost everything in their freezers. Some of them had to go into motels because they didn't have family to stay with, and obviously no reimbursement for them. But the response, the call center was a disaster. I became the call center, as the chairman knows. At one time, I had 82 calls that I had saved, just trying to get the information from what street was out, and I'm using two cell phones to try to call in and text and email, as you folks know. But the call center response was horrific, and then the response to only have, on the weekend, to only have 2 crews and 4 people working was absolutely outrageous. And at the same time, First Energy was out in my ward, sections were out. Not one phone call did I get, not one email from First Energy customers, because they were telling their customers constantly, updating their customers. They were putting out news releases. They were cranking, because I was getting them. Nothing from CPP. No news conference by the administration nor the mayor to tell our citizens what they could expect. 5 days. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm looking forward to the next committee hearing where we're going to deep dive on this. But my citizens are not happy. I'm going to a meeting tonight specifically to hear about this stuff. And I'm telling you, they are not happy about the response from Cleveland Public Power. So I'll leave it there. I'll wait for the next committee hearing. Thank you, Mr.
Chairman,
Chairman.
if I could, I mean, certainly, all due respect, through the chairman and the council member, the 82 call, we had 12,000 customers out. It wasn't a storm, it was a tornado for the first time in 30 years that touched down in the city of Cleveland in the heart of CPP's infrastructure. The call center, yes, we learn lessons from every event, every single event, but nobody got hurt. They worked in unbelievably dangerous situations, as hard as they possibly could, a lot of them for 16 hours a day, up until the law precludes us from giving them work to do. We are forbidden to do it. So I thank God nobody died, right? And I apologize to our customers, but the communications, the call center, I agree. At one point, we abandoned, at 12:35 on August 25th, our call center abandoned 286 calls. That means that they listened to the upfront message and then they hung up. They hung up. There's no call center in the world that can take that, right? At 12:35 on August 25th, what call center? It's our bread and butter is customer service. So you think I'm happy about that? No. But what can we do other than text to speak, upfront messaging, the technologies that we do use to communicate to our customers? The mayor put out a press release. By Tuesday, we had less than 200 customers out. Unfortunately, a lot of them in your ward.
Damn right.
And I'm not happy about that, but less than 200 within 90 hours is huge. That is a success. But your 200 who their life was negatively impacted, that affects us, as it does you. I don't take it lightly, but there were successes. There were safety protocols and measures in place. We did the best we could in a very, very trying situation. But if it's the call center you want, we'll work on it.
We've been hearing that for 3 years.
And that's fine, because through the chairman to the council member, the restoration of power is paramount. And we're telling the caller that we know we have outages on X street, X neighborhood, X ward. We hope, and we say, if there are sparks or fire, please hang up and call 911.
Yeah.
They wait. And I do the same thing. I'm a customer, unfortunately not a CPP. In my section of the city of Cleveland, we don't have it. And we had outages well past Thursday. I agree. From communications, we will work hard with Councilmember Polensek through our chairman and all the members of the Utilities Committee or Cleveland City Council, but there is not a fix.
Well, Mr.
12,000 calls.
Mr. Chairman, I won't belabor the point. I will at the next committee hearing. But you know what? I'm all about service. That's where I'm at. I'm all about service. And when my citizens don't get service, and when I go out there and there's only 2 frickin' crews and only 4 people working, that's it. Those guys told me that they were it for the whole northeast side of the city.
And through the chairman,
okay.
and I apologize, but I must tell you, there were 3 crews at the high voltage wire at 55th and St. Clair with the pole at 60 degrees when you called me to tell me that the crews said there were only 2 in the field.
Right.
2 in Collinwood, maybe. There were 11 or 12 employees of Cleveland Public Power on one high voltage pole. And guess what? There wasn't one customer out of service. But if that pole went down, the entire section of our grid would have gone down. So I apologize again. We will work on the communications. I look forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you.
Well, so do I, Mr. Chairman, at
Mr.
the
Chairman.
next committee hearing. Thank you.
And the next committee hearing will be the 28th.
Mr. Chairman, I want to, you know what, I want to thank, matter of fact, Councilman Mike Polensek was hit very, very, very hard when I was driving the neighborhood on your crew, because I call you personally. I don't call that, I call you personally. They told me, they said, Councilmember Mike Polensek is catching it. Trees down everywhere.
No doubt.
Mike, you must, I think you got hit the hardest out of all of us. And Cruz told me that. And I want to thank, but I personally want to thank you, Director. You guys did a yeoman job in Glenville. We were out. I talked with you. We communicated. I drove the neighborhood. And also I want to thank personally Kevin Bishop, Randy Scott. When I called Randy Scott, they were moving trees on Pierpont and on Park Gate. His crew did a yeoman's job. And they also talked about how Councilmember Mike Polensek, he got hit bad, man. I mean, that's why he's frustrated right now, because the crews told me. And I couldn't make it over there, but all of them said, Councilman, that they got, in other words, they got whacked very badly. So that's why he's frustrated. It's not personal toward you.
No.
It's just the
it's not
system
personal.
failed
We
him.
know that.
Yeah.
Councilman, thank you.
But I want to thank you personally.
Thank you.
All right.
Anything former Director Cox taught us was it's never personal at the table, so don't take it that way. But we will continue this conversation next Thursday on the 28th when we have that piece of legislation. Anything else for the Director of Public Utilities? Seeing none, thank you very much, Director. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you.
To our honored guests, we do have to take a 5-minute recess before we bring this up because I have to look at an amendment that isn't there. Also, Brooke, in our tablets, we don't have the term sheet. It wasn't added in. Can you make sure you distribute that? So I'm going to call for a 5-minute recess, and then we're going to get into the whole Digital C thing, and hopefully we can get all this done. Thank you. you very much for your patience, but for as long as we've been going through this, an extra 5 minutes isn't going to hurt anybody. So let me read Chief Davis. Chief Abenama, are you coming to the table as well? All right. Welcome. So let me read ordinance number 585, 2023 by Councilmember Casey, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the directors of finance and economic development to enter into one or more agreements with Digital C for deployment of a citywide broadband network and to provide related equipment and services to Cleveland residents, authorizing other agreements and authorizing the appropriate director to apply for and accept any gifts, grants, or services from any public or private entity. There is, as of currently right now, one amendment. And let me read that. There is no legal objection to this legislative if amended as follows. 1, insert new section 14 to read as follows. Section 14, the Director of Finance, Economic Development, or other appropriate director shall provide all members of council a quarterly, but we're going to change that to semi-annual. So for council for a semi-annual report from Digital C concerning the effectiveness of this program by ward if available, and will include but not be limited to installation of networks and the results of optimization audits. And number 2, renumber existing sections 14 and 15 to new section 15 and section 16. But for our Director of Law, we do have some other amendments that will be introduced later on in the hearing. So, Chief, you have an opening statement or anything you'd like to say?
Councilman, I do. First, should we invite some of our guests to the table as well?
No.
Okay.
Let's hear your opening statement first.
Thank you. Through the chair to the committee, thank you for hosting us today. By way of quick introduction, again, I am Austin Davis. I'm Mayor Bibb's Senior Policy Advisor. I'm joined today by Chief Abenama of Finance, Chief Fernando of ITS, both of whom are members of the original scoring committee, including myself, who we've moved a bit beyond our original scoring for RFP process in our contract negotiations with Councilman Casey, but they were essential in getting this to where it is today. Unfortunately, who could not join us from our scoring committee was Leon Wilson. He is the Chief of Digital Innovation and Chief Information Officer at the Cleveland Foundation. He's a national expert, a local expert. He's worked with just about every ISP in the area here over the years. We'll introduce our friends at Digital C when it comes time for that. But first, I think let me underscore what we're coming with today. We're coming with dozens of letters of support for Digital C from community partners, technical experts, people who know. We're coming with a Microsoft partnership, which through Microsoft's Airband initiative has pledged its belief in and support for Digital C's proposal by providing global standard-setting tools to help see this proposal through. And we're coming, thanks to Councilman Casey's leadership, with an exceptionally aggressive performance-based agreement. There is no money up front from the city, and payments are provided to Digital C only if and only after certain milestones are reached. Digital C is so confident in their product that they're willing to operate under this payment schedule. They only get paid after we get what we want. The city's not rolling any dice here. Let me just say, I think in the real world, this might feel like common sense. You hand your money over only after you get what you asked for. Government doesn't always work with common sense in mind, but today we have the opportunity to do that with the leadership of Councilman Casey, myself, CEO Joshua Edmonds. We have the opportunity to do just that. I'm going to level set briefly about the state of internet connectivity in Cleveland today before we continue our conversation. Today in Cleveland, the cheapest decent internet someone can get costs about $30 a month. That price is not available to everybody. It's probably not available to the members of this body. It's not available to me. And even if you can't get it, there are a number of hoops you got to jump through first. You'd have to, as an initial matter, qualify for the Affordable Connectivity Program. It's a federal program. We've talked about it some. It's a dramatic success, but it does require that you be low income or on an assistance program. If you do qualify for ACP, then you have to file all your paperwork with the federal government to demonstrate that you qualify for ACP, to demonstrate your income level or assistance provisions. And then you have to get your federal approval to the internet service provider that accepts it so you can receive their special ACP rate. This is cheap internet, but it's not a front door option. You have to go in through the back, and you have to jump through a number of hoops to get to that back door. And I don't want to be misunderstood. The ACP is an amazing program. If you qualify, you get $30 a month off your internet bill every month from the federal government. That can be free internet if your internet only costs $30 a month. And a lot of Clevelanders can qualify for ACP. This is a Biden administration victory for Cleveland, but I'm going to highlight two obstacles here. One, this is a program that's about to run out of money sometime in 24, sooner rather than later. And you don't have to read too many newspaper headline articles to understand that this is a Congress that is not, unfortunately, in the business of spending money on programs that work, or with this House of Representatives spending money on programs for low-income people. Not a lot of common sense in Washington, unlike this body today. And these $30 a month plans, they leave out most Clevelanders. Most Clevelanders can't access this pricing point. So where does that leave us? The bottom line here is that if you want a comprehensive broadband solution for the city of Cleveland, we cannot build it around the status quo. We can't build it around a federal program that's going to, despite its successes, evaporate next year. We can't build it around a service plans that are only going to be offered to certain people and not other people, and only if certain paperwork gets filed, and you have to jump through all those hoops. But let me also be clear that doing nothing here is not an option. We've talked about this a couple times, that the status quo actors in our status quo marketplace have left us with a scenario where Cleveland consistently, year after year, ranks among the cities with the absolute lowest connectivity rates in the country. According to the latest census data, and it's always updated, but these days about 32% of Clevelanders don't have broadband internet at their house. It's a very low bar. In Cincinnati, that's 23%. In Columbus, that's 16%. I'm going to underscore this point. Our stats here in Cleveland on internet connectivity are twice as bad as Columbus's. This is a situation where the market's not going to solve this problem for us. We in local government have to stand up and solve the problem ourselves. We have to get involved. We have to do it actively, and we have to take a new approach that does not rely on the tools of the status quo. And this is where Digital C comes in. Bottom up, baked in affordability at $18 a month. Their service plan is as fast as those $30 a month plans, faster depending on who you're comparing it to. On an annual basis, a resident who pays $18 a month compared to $30 a month every month for a year will save about $150. That's $150 in their pocket. And you don't have to file paperwork proving you're low income. You don't have to jump through those hoops. You don't have to be on the ACP. Once ACP runs out, sometimes next year, that $18 a month plan is going to stick around for every single Clevelander. Digital C is rooted here in the city of Cleveland. It's a homegrown partner that can deliver a high-quality, cost-effective solution for Clevelanders with our support today. And like I said, this is a support that does not mean risk. We're paying for results, and we're paying only after results are demonstrated. This is an exciting opportunity before us. So with that, I think I'll hand it back to the chair, and we can see where presentation might come in next.
All right, anybody else have any opening statements? Good? Good? All right, so we're going to do this in a couple of steps. So the first step is, at the request of the council president and myself, we wanted the selection committee to appear before council today. Are members of the selection committee here?
3 of our 4. Leanne Wilson can't be here today.
Okay. Can we call them to the table?
It's the 3 here.
The 3 that are in front of us?
That's right.
Okay. So to my council colleagues, does anybody have any questions regarding the selection of Digital C for this project? Councilman Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quickly, I would like to know what other companies were also analyzed and by the committee to go over to kind of gauge what plan would be better for the city of Cleveland.
Chief.
Can you elaborate about what other companies you looked at?
Through the chair to the councilman, of course, there were 11 responses to our RFP. Some were sort of small proposals that were a little pie in the sky, but the big names, the interesting ones were Pieces for People, which was the county's partner, Digital C, Spectrum, AT&T, T-Mobile, Sci-Fi Networks, which is another proposal before this council, different discussion. I think those were the highlights. There was a longer list, but Connected Neo is another nonprofit in the region, proposed a similar concept.
Okay, through the chair, do we have do you have something to show us the kind of scoring system that you used over this process and why you came to choose Digital C? Did you have a standardized scoring process, or you guys kind of went through it?
Chief, do you have the scoring sheets?
Through the chair, I didn't bring copies of the scoring sheets. We submitted those to, I think, Joe Tytron some months ago. It's one big scoring sheet. We just came to a consensus on each of them, but we did have a consistent scoring process. There were a number of metrics, and we went through each of these very nuanced, about 30 individual questions for each proposal to determine how we would rank them amongst each other. Happy to walk through that too in some detail. There were 30 questions, 11 proposals, quite a bit of conversation.
Hold on for 1 second. Brooke, do we have the scoring sheets that were sent over? Can we find out if we have those? Can we get a copy real quick for the members? Go ahead, Councilman Bishop, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is that it?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, can we get the scorecard also? Can I have a copy of the scorecard?
I think they're going to get them now to make copies.
And could he bring a scorecard when he come to finance also? You need to have that with you.
Of course.
Okay.
Through the chair to the committee, the scorecard was extremely helpful in discerning what the most interesting proposals were. I'll say that this wasn't an arrangement where the score automatically equaled our support. We wanted to make sure this stuff was real first, and that's why we engaged in this long contract negotiation process following our scoring process. So I'll just flag the score isn't our last thoughts on the subject. Just because something scored a certain way doesn't mean it was better, or it doesn't mean it was necessarily worse than other proposals we received. I don't want to make this an indictment of any proposal because there were a lot of very thoughtful proposals in there. But we did use it as a tool to help elevate the ideas we thought were most interesting.
You know, Mr. Chairman, a scorecard is not useful unless they have an evaluation process with it. You do understand that to the chair too. So you should have an evaluation with it, how you evaluate the scorecard. You just show me a scorecard, you got an A, B. It means nothing to me. But if there's an evaluation that correlates with the scorecard, then I can read it better.
Yeah, through the chair to the councilperson, absolutely. Yes, and that's what we did.
All right, thank you. Reading over this P&L also.
Did Digital C score the best?
Through the chair, it's, I wish I had the scorecard in front of me.
Well, we're getting a
Apologize.
copy of
We'll get a copy. I believe they were in the top 3. I think they scored best. It was in the top 3, and those are the ones that we offered finalist interviews for. It was our top 3 scorers.
What were the three companies that were offered interviews?
Digital C, Sci-Fi Networks, and AT&T.
Okay. So Spectrum, T-Mobile, Connect Neo, none of those got interviews.
I think they were 4th and 5th
Okay.
and 6th.
All right.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions on the selection process?
Just the selection process?
Just the selection process right now, until we get the scorecards. And then on the selection process, the 3 of you are sitting across from us today saying that you honestly believe that Digital C was the best choice for what we wanted throughout this RFP process, correct?
Through the chair, yes, and I think it's important to note the broader context of the Sci-Fi recommendation as well, is that, Sci-Fi in our estimation was the best long-term for kind of fiber access to every address in the city. And then in the short and intermediate term, Digital C was the best option to ensure that our residents and businesses are getting connected to affordable internet until the Sci-Fi network exists.
Okay, which is why the 2 pieces of legislation, and we'll be hearing the other one next week. Comment?
To the chair and council members, just looking at the whole perspective of closing the digital divide for the cabinet, the approach that I presented to the selection teams that we wanted to take it in multiple stages. First, to actually get broadband out to the community, and then invest in a program that will solidify the future of connectivity for the community and so on. And in our analysis, the approach that we've taken right now with Digital C and Sci-Fi Networks is what's going to be the most efficient to achieve that. So.
Okay, but we're not, in your estimation, we're not putting the cart before the horse if you think that the long-term solution is the broadband, the fiber that's going in, correct? That's the long-term solution. So
To the
you-
chair and council members, that's correct.
So
We
what I
believe
believe
this-
what I heard you say, what I believe is that this is a stopgap until we can get the fiber laid,
That's correct.
correct?
Yes.
It's an expensive stopgap. Do you have anything, Councilman Hirsch?
Specifically on the selection committee,
Correct.
Councilman? Yeah, through the chair, the selection committee was was a function of the administration. The administration reviewed. So through the chair, were the members of that committee publicly, there was a public body though? I mean, we can say who they are? There's not like a concern about that?
Through the chair to the councilman, yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And through the chair, have we been provided that list of selection committee members?
Through the chair to, well.
I've heard some names, but I've never seen the full list.
Did that come over with Brooks? Did you get?
Through the chair, that was in our first email to Joe Chitrin. And just to be
Okay.
public about
Yeah.
it, it's us three and Leon Wilson, so.
The
Yeah,
three of you
so-
and Leon Wilson?
Yeah.
Right. So
Okay.
It was
So-
the four of
Okay.
them.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, got it. That's all on the selection process. Thank you.
Who wrote the RFP? Do you know?
Through the chair, I did the laboring oar on that, input from a lot of sources.
All right. Okay, anything else on the selection committee or the selection process? So we would be remiss, though, to say that none of the three of you here had any previous undertakings with Digital C or their CEO or their previous CEOs, correct?
The three of us did not, that's correct.
But we also do know that the fourth member did have a relationship with the current I'm not saying it's wrong or it's right. It's just information that we have that we want to just lay on the table. But the fourth member of the selection process, who is not here today, does or did have a previous relationship with the current CEO, correct?
Through the chair, that's absolutely correct. It's Joshua Edmonds, I believe, was a Cleveland Foundation Fellow, worked for Leon Wilson a decade ago. I can be corrected on that number. I'll just say Leon was not part of Digital C's selection process for a CEO, and our scoring occurred before Joshua became CEO.
Okay.
Um,
Again,
Oh, I
I'm not saying
understand.
it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong. I just don't want to get any gotchas later on saying, we had this information, why didn't it get brought to the table?
And to avoid that, Mr. Chair, Mr. Wilson, I believe, is an employee of the Cleveland Foundation. Is that correct?
Correct.
And did the Cleveland Foundation submit a letter of support for Digital C?
Through the chair, yes, they did.
Okay, so they submitted, and then he was on the review. He sent and received. And I mean, he was on, the Cleveland Foundation wrote a letter of support, and then he was on the committee receiving that letter as well, and part of the review. I mean, you look at support letters.
I don't remember the support letters
Just-
offhand. But
We just this is the table, we
And
put it
for
all
the-
on.
Right, and that's why,
Yep.
because I don't, later on, I don't want anybody to come back and say, we didn't bring it up at the table. Yeah, I want to be 100% transparent in this thing. This is a very touchy subject with a lot of individuals around the city. I know you have a lot of support, but there's also, I could show you hundreds of emails that I've gotten going the other way, right? But it's not my job to judge either way. It's my job to make sure that we do the right thing and be the overseers of this thing. And that's why we're going to put everything out on the table that we can, so that this committee can hear everything that needs to be heard and make their own decision. So, and our members have the scoring sheets currently for the selection committee. So if anybody has any questions now regarding this, Councilman Conwell?
Thank you. Let me say this, when you mentioned Digital C, I know I have it at home, and I haven't had any problems with Digital C. I mean, it's good, it's real good, and it's not crashing on me, especially in my neighborhood, Glenville. We were redlined, and I have a lot of trees around my house, and Digital C is, I get some good quality. However, switching gears, put that over here. I like reading the scorecard. Now to the scorecard, we need the evaluation process to go along with it. I mean, you have numbers, and you got to show me how you got to it. I mean, I mentioned to you I do like Digital C, but I need to know, when you give me an evaluation process, then I know I'm not part of your selection team, but then I can get into your mind of why you went with Digital C or why you didn't go with other, because that evaluation tells me.
Through the chair of the councilman, absolutely. Maybe it's worth sitting down and walking through those 30 questions we asked, which each informed one of these six, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 numbers here on the page for each category. It was a lengthy process. We took multiple days of our work schedules to discuss, days to read, hundreds of pages to condense it down to these numbers was an effort. But we really did grind out to figure what were the top proposals for us to interview for those finalist interviews. With that, I think I'll also add, the proposals speak for themselves to some level, which is, I think, exciting before us today. We, from the administration's perspective, are getting what we're looking for, a high-quality, low-cost service for every Clevelander. The math didn't work out necessarily as well for other folks. Their proposals also speak for themselves.
You know what? I hear all of that. I mentioned to you I like Digital C, but like doesn't. You gotta see, like reading this proposal and reading what you're saying. If you evaluated them, then you need to check them every quarter, or whoever you evaluate, and don't wait till the year and say we didn't hit our benchmarks. So you check them every quarter and you look at their dependencies, because things are dependent for milestones to happen. And I can't see that just by looking at this scorecard. Because this is what you're saying. And then you saying the reason why you picked them. And so you need to monitor and evaluate that so that we know we're going in the right direction.
Through the chair to the councilperson, absolutely. And that's a key part of this, trust but verify. That's, I believe, one of the amendments before the body today is to require not that just we monitor Digital C's efforts, but that there's a report to this council on a regular basis about the ongoing monitoring of those efforts. So you'll receive those reports as well.
Yeah, because, to the chair, we have oversight. And it's very, very important. But you're not showing me that we have oversight when you just give me a scorecard and you're not telling me the process. For me, this is not my committee, but that's insulting to me, really. Here's the scorecard, they got a 95. Oh yeah, they got a 95. But you're not telling me how did they get to the 95. You're just showing me 95. And to me, that's insulting. To the chair.
Through the chair, I apologize, no intention to insult. The Utilities Committee received a lengthy multi-page document that clarified each of the questions, what would qualify as a high, medium, or low score. Right. I think it was 10 pages or so. It came straight out of the RFP that went into depth about what each of these sections really mean. We put together an explainer, and I apologize I didn't get to you,
right.
But we did send it to the Utilities Committee some time ago.
Yeah, because 10 pages, you think that's long for me?
No, not at all, Councilman.
All right. Because to me it's insulting. And I'm not trying to beat you up. I just need to know. That's the main thing. You look at the scope, you understand it, you measure the dependencies before you get to the milestones, and I need to know how did they get to the 95. That's all I'm asking for. In 10 pages, you say it's lengthy. That's not lengthy for me. And I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, but that's why I came here to try to figure it out. Is there a way, can you bring us to the chair your evaluation? Can you give it to us? Can you give me a copy of it?
Through the chair, I'm happy to send you a copy of our evaluation matrix that really clarified the questions we were asking as we went through each of these.
Okay.
And I'll also clarify this, again, the contract we have before, the term sheet we have before us is a little separate from the RFP process. Part of the legislation required that this council have a final say over any contract or agreement that is a result of that RFP process. It's important for money of this size that we make sure council is comfortable with what we're looking at. But I'll flag that the RFP only got us so far. This is beyond the RFP at this point.
And you'll see, Councilman Conwell, later on how we came up with the term sheet.
Yeah, they're pretty durable. For me, my household, Mr. Chair, I just want to know. It's important because we have oversight, and I need to know before you get to finance. All right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, anything else on the selection process? All right, thank you on the selection process. Now, you had plenty of letters of support. I only received one letter from United Way that was sent directly to me. I forget the lady's name. I hope she's not in the room. Via an email this morning. I can tell you who it is. I don't want to. Sharon Jordan. Okay, so that's the only one I've got. Do you have any other letters of support from any other organizations that you want to submit to the council?
Through the chair, to the chair, yes. This is part of the Google Drive that Digital C put together.
It's in the presentation?
It's in a longer link that was sent to, oh,
You have,
Yes, but the letters of support. Okay.
so we have one from, oh geez, the
Sorry.
Wi-Fi in here. Cleveland Public Library, Microsoft, the Cleveland Foundation. I think that's Microsoft again, isn't it? No. CMHA, Policy Bridge, and that's it, right?
there's a longer, through the, I'm sorry.
And United Way.
Through the chair, there's a longer document in there that is a compilation of many other letters of support, too. So some of them are from the original RFP, which this is relatively close to. But
You were asked, not the RFP letter of support, a letter of support for today, right?
just putting them in the folder.
Right.
But through the chair, yep, that's the folder I'm referencing.
Is there one in there from Mandel?
Through the chair, I don't believe there is. We could ask Digital C. They're the ones who took their little oar on collecting it.
Do you have a letter of support from the Mandel Foundation? From the Mandel Foundation? Okay. All right. Anything else on the selection process? All right, if you want to, the next step would be, let's bring anybody else here in the public to speak on behalf of supporting Digital C who's not associated or employed by Digital C. Okay, I just want to make sure if there's any guests outside of Digital C that are here to speak, now would be the time. So you want to come on up if you. Oh, okay, Ms. Vaness. Does she sit on their board?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I'm looking for anybody who doesn't sit on the board, who's not so there's nobody here from outside their board or anything like that that's here that can talk to support of Digital C, correct? We just have the letters. I'm just asking.
Through the chair, I believe that's correct.
All right, if you want to bring Digital C up, so if they have.
There was a hand that went up, I believe,
Thank you,
Chairman.
Chief.
Through the chair, Chief Mabanama has negotiations to attend, but might join us later.
Get that done.
Yeah.
Need to hit that 51%. All right, if you want to introduce your guests, it's right here. It's on, it's been tested, it should be working.
There you go.
It's on.
Through the chair, thank you very much. I'm going to introduce the CEO, and then he can introduce his team from there. This is CEO Joshua Edmonds of Digital C.
Welcome, Josh.
Thank you. Through the chair to the committee, it is an honor to be back before you all today. I know the last time I was here was in June, and so it does feel good to be back in front of you. I do have a few opening remarks I'm going to share, and in those opening remarks, I'll be introducing my team that's here at the table, as well as the ones who are sitting behind me, as well as our board chair, Lance Frew. And so I'll kick off this with my opening remarks. Members of the Public Utilities Committee of Cleveland City Council, it is an honor to sit before you today to share the story of Digital C, an organization that has not idled by, but has, through listening, learning, evaluating, and innovating, accelerated its evolution from a nonprofit organization providing digital skills to what it is today, a leading nonprofit technology social enterprise driven to deploy a premier state-of-the-art network to bridge the digital divide in Cleveland for good. I'm Joshua Edmonds. As the CEO of Digital C, it is an immense privilege to sit here before you today. I sit here with great pride and eagerness to present to you why Digital C is the right choice to receive this once-in-a-lifetime funding from the City of Cleveland. This is a responsibility that I do not take lightly, as it is incumbent on me to share with you Digital C's story and how we have put in place the people, the plan, and the passion necessary to ensure an equitable digital future for all residents of our city. With me today is our board chair, Lance Frew. Lance?
I'll go through to the chair, to the committee. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'll introduce you to some of our board members and tell you a little bit about myself and GBX. So obviously, James Fox, who's associated with the Mendel Foundation, is on our board. Joe Glick, John Grimm, who has a long history with Cleveland through Jumpstart. Yvette Itu with Greater Cleveland Partnership. John King, Tanya Manise, Boris Mizell. Boris is one of the nation's leading experts in the technology and has been foundational to helping us navigate our technology path. Felton Thomas, and of course, Chaz Withers with Dixon Eaton. For myself, as board chair, I've been associated with the organization since its inception. If you don't know GBX is, I think, one of the largest property holders in Cleveland. We have over 24 buildings, over 1.5 million square feet. We're responsible for driving a great deal of the development along the Superior Arts Corridor, and including, you may know our headquarters. It used to be the Daffy Dan building. He wouldn't sell it unless he knew it was going to be preserved and developed. So Cleveland is our home. The success of Cleveland is our success, and of course our success is Cleveland's. We also operate in other cities throughout the country. We have a very clear perspective of what other cities are doing and just how competitive it is, and it's very important for me and for our firm to see the city succeed and to see the residents of this city be able to compete in the 21st century.
Thank you, Mr. Lance. And in addition, with me today, and I'm just going to go down from the guests that you see at the table, our Chief of Marketing Communications, Valerie Jerome, our Chief Operating Officer, Jose Valdez, our Chief Financial Officer, Marlene Piatek. Within the audience, we see a few folks directly behind me is our Director of the Midtown Tech Hive, Richard Rivera, our Director of Community Outreach and Education, LaDonna Norris, our Director for Customer Operations is Roman Waked, and our Director of People, Culture, and Success, Jalen Hollinger, as well as our Director of Technology, Rolando Alvarez. We are a mission-driven group that collectively brings to Digital C a high degree of expertise in our respective fields and decades of experience delivering results within the nonprofit, public, and private sectors, including within the telecommunications industry. Above all, we have the passion to execute this plan so that we can write a new narrative for our city and write the next chapter in Digital C's story. However, before we write the next chapter, we must understand and appreciate where we started. Digital C was born out of a profound belief in the power of equitable digital access for all. We recognize that many neighborhoods in our community have been underserved and overlooked. So in 2015, we set out to connect the unconnected through serving the community as a 501c3, teaching technology skills in computer labs and celebrating new skills in community rooms across the city. This commitment to service is embedded within our DNA. It has remained at our core while we have progressed through the evolution from a nonprofit organization to a full-fledged social enterprise with the sophisticated operations seen in for-profit technology companies, but with an equity-based growth mindset that centers Cleveland and Clevelanders. In the past few months alone, the combination of refined operations and a growth mindset has resulted in the addition of key new hires, a strategic focus on our brand, the acquisition of a robust customer relationship management system to automate sales processes and create efficiencies, and other capacity building measures that will propel us towards achieving our goals. Out in the field at Phoenix Village, that's in Ward 5 in the central neighborhood, we upgraded the technology in this community of townhomes to provide an even faster speeds for our residents. This summer, our team knocked on doors, hosted a block party, sent email communications and texts, and partnered with local community development CDCs to market our services in this community. I am proud to report that awareness is growing along with the number of households using our service. At this time, more than 35% of households at Phoenix Village are Digital C customers, and this number continues to grow. And a point of clarification, I would like to say Phoenix Village is not an MDU. It's actually townhomes. And so I do want to throw that out there that we do have success beyond MDUs. At Morningstar Tower, near East 106 and St. Clair, we deployed a pilot site to demonstrate the technology that we plan to deploy for the citywide network. I am pleased to share that that pilot site is exceeding our expectations, circumventing heavy tree canopies, and clocking speeds of over 100/100. And again, as you all know, within the RFP, 100/100 is the speed threshold that we do need to reach consistently. I'll also throw out there that by the end of this month, we will have 61 subscribers using our network in that recent deployment. The reason why that's important is because that network right now can reach 600 households. And so if we're looking at our take rate, and you see that we need to connect 23,500 households within 4 years, we're modeling our take rate for success with these recent deployments. Now throw in Phoenix Village where we are actually over the take rate on our estimates, for which that's a good thing for us. The Digital C Network engineers have additional sites on Carnegie Avenue, St. Augustine on Detroit Avenue, and Woodhill East in the works. The technology we are using ensures that the Digital C customers have access to superior internet at $18 a month. The deployment of this network solves for affordability without compromising quality. While we have tested and fine-tuned the technology and established more mature processes and procedures, we do recognize the challenges that come along with being a young organization poised to scale. However, I assure you that we are taking assertive steps to continuously assess our approaches, find and implement solutions, then reassess and achieve excellence. This consistent refinement is part and parcel to a culture that we are building that will lead to a sustainable and impactful model for others to replicate as they seek ways to bridge the digital divide in their cities. The model we are building is the first of its kind. What sets Digital C apart from other wireless internet service providers is our unwavering dedication to providing consistent 100 megabits per second upload and download speeds at $18 a month without gimmicks like price hikes or hidden fees for all Clevelanders. I emphasize all because part of the reason we are having this conversation today is because historically our competitors in this space have chosen to deploy comparable speeds only to select markets where they deem profitable, leaving out others. Our commitment is to serve every community in Cleveland equally, putting people over profits. Let's talk numbers. The proof of our commitment to people over profits. While our competitors charge $70 or more a month for slower and selective services, Digital C proudly offers a superior technology and an affordable price of just $18 a month for every resident. That's an astounding difference of over 70% in cost savings compared to our competitors, and that's a key selling point, as you all know. To sell, we have developed a bold and transformative marketing and sales strategy that emphasizes the Digital C difference. By emphasizing our consistent speeds and rates that residents can afford well into the future, we are building a strong digital foundation for the future of our city. Allowing more Clevelanders to fully participate in the digital world will serve as a rising tide that lifts all boats. As we pave the way for digital equity, Digital C is more than an internet service provider. We are agents of change that focus on holistic solutions to the issues that we are facing. Our internet service will connect residents to the internet, but once they're connected, what is their experience beyond? Through digital literacy training, we are empowering individuals to seize new opportunities and compete in an ever-evolving world of coding, automation, and artificial intelligence. We believe that without digital literacy, even the most basic tasks, like filling out that aforementioned job application, become formidable challenges in an increasingly AI-driven world. Our mission at Digital C is clear: to deploy a premier state-of-the-art network that is affordable, reliable, and sustainable to bridge the digital divide for good. By deploying this network, a network inclusive of technology and training, We will empower every individual in our community with the tools and knowledge to thrive in an ever-changing digital landscape. You may have heard concerns or held some of those concerns of your own about the sustainability of Digital C's business model. I assure you that our dedication to financial viability is as steadfast as our commitment to social impact. We have meticulously crafted a robust and adaptable strategy that embraces innovation, fosters strategic partnership, and leverages diverse revenue streams to ensure long-term sustainability. Critically, making this investment in Digital C is making an investment in the future of our great city. By bridging the digital divide, we empower our citizens to seize new opportunities, advance their education, and access vital resources. This, in turn, will contribute to economic growth and social cohesion, enhancing the overall quality of life for every resident. Today, I urge you to see Digital C as more than just another telecommunications organization seeking funding. We are a transformative force in our community, a social enterprise that prioritizes people over profits, equality over exclusion, and impact over complacency. By supporting Digital C, Cleveland City Council has the opportunity to be at the forefront of an initiative that will shape the future of our city for generations to come. Together, let us embrace the Digital C difference and make the resolute decision to invest in a brighter and inclusive digital future for all of Cleveland.
That was good.
Does this have the ability to click? That's a video that's supposed to click, but.
Is it?
Or do I do that? I pressed every button on this thing, so I don't think that's. No, that's not right.
Oh, geez, technology.
Yeah. Well,
Let's just see. She can pull it up.
it was embedded in a PowerPoint I'm looking at. I think that might be a PDF.
Rather than
Yeah.
Great job.
Well, nonetheless.
You tried. Yeah, because it's not on our tablet either.
Well,
So what was in the video?
the video was a nice summary explaining the Digital C difference. And so when you look at the Digital C difference, it's highlighting, one, the speeds that I obviously outlined through the opening remarks, as well as a breakdown of some of the broader activities we're seeing within Digital C. And so when we highlight the Digital C difference, we know that us being headquartered in Cleveland and being the only internet provider headquartered here, it allows us to build relationships in ways that some of the other providers don't have that advantage to do so. In addition to that, while it's being headquartered at the Midtown Tech Hive, where we do conduct classes, and us being headquartered in that very building where our network operating centers and network operations center is present, we're also able to show people quite literally how the sausage is made. And so the Digital C difference is one that's rooted in community, while at the same time allowing us to have next generation fixed wireless technology under our umbrella. And that's the Digital C difference.
Okay.
The video was nicer, if I do say so myself.
All right. Well, thanks for the effort. All right. All right. Anybody have any, before I ask my questions, I'm going to open it up to questions from the committee. So does anybody have any questions of Digital C?
Don't we all?
Somebody wants to raise their hand first. Okay, Councilman Polensek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, and to the administration and to the folks that are here from Digital C. We've received the presentation, and we've received information from the Utilities Committee briefing documents. But what I've received also, as I think the chairman alluded to it, we've been getting calls and emails alluding to that if something seems too good to be true, it usually is. And that questioning Digital C's ability to perform based on past track record. So in light of that, and I'll be the first to tell you, I'm no techie. I have internet at home. I have AT&T. My kids around the corner have Spectrum. So educate us, or maybe deep dive a little bit more, based on your past track record, why are we getting these emails about your performance and your ability and questioning whether that this is such a, quote unquote, such a good deal for the city that we should be very cautious? So whoever wants to respond to that.
Chief or Mr. Edmonds?
Through the chair, I'll start and then I'll let Mr. Evans get to the substance of it. But it's, I'll let you know that the mayor's office has received similar emails. We dug into them a little bit. One of the big telecom companies is spending serious money on an AstroTurf campaign to organize emails and phone calls in opposition to anything that would break their monopoly here in the city.
Okay.
So we're raising some hackles with the big shots in other
Okay.
cities that are paying attention here. But Mr. Evans.
Through the chair to the councilperson, when we say our past track record, I look at the past track record for me as November of 2022, and that's when I took over this organization. And I can look at May of 2023 when I did a strategic rebalancing where I actually brought in majority of the chiefs, actually every chief that you see at this table, the people that I brought in. And so when we look at the past, I don't actually have answers nor a focus on the past. Since coming into Digital C, I've been very focused on the future, meeting the demands and the requirements associated with this RFP, and assembling a winning team, for which I've done. And so as I look at the past, I'm well aware of at least what is in the ether, because people let me know how they feel. This is a very honest city in that regard. But what I can also say at the same time is I've constructed a winning team, and I'm looking at the processes and procedures and the next generation technology that we've deployed that, for me, I don't lose sleep over the performance of Digital C related to our future.
What are you Mr. Chairman, Mr. Edmonds, what are you charging per month now to your customers?
Through the chair to the councilperson, we are charging $18 a month.
Okay. And that's everybody, apartments, houses, et cetera, et cetera. If you're charging $18 a month, why hasn't your subscriber base increased?
Through the chair to the councilperson, so our subscriber base has increased, but one of the things I do want to flag, when we began talking about connecting the unconnected, as you heard in my opening remarks, our origin story,
right,
it begs the question, well, who is unconnected? Because as you said it best, you have AT&T. I think you said one of your children has Spectrum.
Right.
Okay. And so in the director's remarks, 30% of Clevelanders don't have 32%, I'm sorry, do not have a stable broadband connection. That same population, if we looked at other socioeconomic indicators, we would see a third of residents, a third of residents, a third of residents. We know we have a third of residents. Our network in the past has been built in those same areas. Quite frankly, you heard me even in those same remarks talk about our success in Phoenix Village, which is in the central neighborhood, for which we know the neighborhood demographics in the central neighborhood. And so we did not build the network in areas where we saw robust home ownership, where we saw two-income households, high degrees of college attainment. We actually built the network in areas that were historically underconnected and under-resourced in a number of ways. And so I would say that our subscriber base is in direct correlation to these socioeconomic factors in Cleveland that have gone unchecked and unaddressed for quite some time. And so Digital C's model is built on historically addressing and connecting the unconnected. And I can say personally, Mr. Councilman, that we have connected certain residents about 6 times we've connected them in our service area. And it's not because we went out to the same household. They're moving. And when we look at our actual areas where we serve, we're not citywide today. We're pockets, and the pockets where the need is the greatest, where the housing transience is also the greatest.
Yeah. Okay. Who would care to comment about the ACP, the Federal Affordable Connection Program? Because that has come up in some of our emails, some of the phone calls that I have received. So who would like to touch base on that? Because people are saying, why should the city spend all this money when there's this federal access, federal ability?
Through the chair, thank you. Through the chair, to the council person, I touched on this briefly a couple minutes ago. 2 main reasons. One, The ACP is, well, first, let me just preface again. I'm going to say it over and over. The ACP is an amazing program, and I hope it has a long funding life. Unfortunately, we're looking at it evaporating from policy life sometime next year. And sooner rather than later is the phrase I keep using. It's out of money, and this is a Congress that does not put money into programs that work, and especially programs that work for low-income people. We're probably facing a government shutdown. We're not looking at expanding successes. So we can't build a strategy here at the City of Cleveland around a program that probably won't exist next year. That's our fundamental plank in our strategic thinking here. It probably won't exist. We got to also address the fact that it only is offered to certain select people in the city, low-income individuals or otherwise on assistance with the government. And those are essential populations that the city needs to serve better. That's why we're here. That's why we get up every day. But that said, there's a lot of other people in Cleveland that are left out of the ACP umbrella. And we need to create a plan and a service that can provide for everybody, not just ACP recipients. So, Mr. Edmonds, any thoughts after that?
Just to reiterate on that, Councilman Polensek, when I started having the initial conversations with the chief, no matter who was selected, nobody was going to ever come to the table if this wasn't a citywide program offered to everybody in the city, no matter where you live, what your income level is. So this is something that's offered to every single resident, no, not businesses, but I was a stickler on that because everybody deserves to have the same affordability across the city. So I just wanted to make sure that when these dollars, which I've always said that ARPA dollars should go citywide, I wanted to make sure that this touched every cornerstone of the city of Cleveland and not just certain pockets.
And Mr. Chairman, I appreciate your due diligence on that and your concern and, again, all the work that you've done up to this point on this. I'm just trying to become better, more knowledgeable about what is being before us. Because, again, I have a history here. And I've heard every story there is that can be told at this table. I was told, the trickle-down theory from the stadiums, which never happened because we defy gravity in Cleveland and we trickle up. Things trickle up here. I've heard every story, every line there is. So again, I keep going back to this. $18. What such a deal. Such a deal. I want to make sure it is a deal for our citizens, and that Digital C has the ability to provide the service to our citizens. And I know that there are going to be people out there who will never tap into Digital C. I know that myself. I mean, I'd say I think about a third of my community, the old timers, will never touch Digital C. They still have the hardline phones at home, and when they get a cell phone, it's a flip phone from ARP. So I'm very much aware of that, but I want to make sure when this council decides to make a decision, again, I know not only want to thank the chair, but I want to thank the staff who's done some really good research as well and has raised questions and concerns. But I want to make sure whatever decision we make is the right decision on behalf of our citizens and on behalf of the city, because this is $20 million. This is a heavy lift. This is, I think maybe, I'm trying to think in all the pecking order of ARPA funds, this might be one of the biggest, maybe it is the biggest dollar amount. Yeah, that we have focused in one specific area. And we're never going to see those dollars again. Those ARPA funds, we're never going to see them again. So we want to make sure, I want to make sure that we have the biggest bang for the buck. So whoever we ultimately pick, and obviously the administration's recommending Digital C, but I don't know, but I don't know if you guys have seen this thing that came out. Because we just got this today. And where they're disputing some of the things you have said and raising serious questions, and this came to all members of City Council today, raising serious questions about Digital C's, past performance and what you're proposing to do now for the city of Cleveland. So I hope you get a chance to look at this, because there's no name I don't think there's no name attached to it, but somebody took the time to do some work or do some of their own due diligence on it. Plus, again, based on phone calls and based on some of the other things that I've received, and I'm sure the chairman has received more than the rest of us on the committee. I just want to make sure that that the ultimate decision that we make is the right thing for our citizens and the right thing for the city. That's where I'm at, Mr. Chairman. I only know a few people on the board of Digital C, but I'm not basing my decision based on that. I'm basing it on their presentation and what this ultimately means. And I keep saying to myself, should we do a pilot program with them? I don't know if I'm ready to sign on for the whole shebang. Do we do a pilot and see how it works? I'm thinking of kicking around different things in my head.
Well, Councilman, I'll address that real quick. When we go over the term sheet, which will be the last part of this thing, I think you'll see that it's almost like that, right? Where this is,
Okay.
the dollars that's going to be expended are performance-based.
Okay.
So they either do what they say they're going to do or they don't get the money.
Well, that's what I like.
So when we go over the
Okay.
term sheet, I think you'll be
Okay.
you'll be at a more comfort level in regards to the whole 20 going on.
And the only other thing I would raise, Mr. Chairman, in the amendments, we had originally kicked around a quarterly report. Now that's been to what, biannual? What's the justification for that?
I just think it was a lot to come back 4 times a year when it's performance-based.
Okay.
Right, so we just said, once we'll catch them halfway through, and you'll see when we go over the term sheet how it's set out.
Okay.
But if you want to go back to quarterly,
I want to make sure that there is oversight.
yeah.
We'll
go
because
at the
we just heard this morning about what we were led to believe with LED lights didn't happen.
Right.
It didn't take place.
Right.
And we found out after the fact. So I just want to make sure we're doing what is right based on the information we have. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and my colleagues.
Is that it, Councilman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Spencer.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I think I have a procedural.
I don't think your microphone works.
It doesn't work?
I don't think your
We didn't hear
microphone
it
works.
out there
Take Blunt
either.
6.
Green.
Take Blunt
Okay.
6.
All right. I'm gonna grab
Go ahead.
Shoot, another
Yeah.
broken microphone. That's disappointing. Okay. Mr. Chair, so we are going to hold on questions related to the term sheet for now. You want to do that separately?
Right now, we're just going over Digital C in general, and then we're going to read the term sheet, and then
Okay.
we'll get into questions on the term sheet.
Okay, and I do have questions regarding the term sheet, but I will hold those, and I will also hold my comments preview is, thank you for all your hard work on the term sheet. Okay, but we'll come back to that. So I think I will then just ask a few questions, building off of what Councilman Polensek was speaking to, just about the challenge of the growth, I guess I would call it exponential growth, right, compared to what Digital C has been doing historically. Councilman Polensek referenced, or maybe our chair did, in your presentation, the examples you gave, if I'm not mistaken, are related to multifamily residences, and yet this expansion would include, certainly single-family residences are an important part of this expanded customer base. So one question I had through the chair is, it seems that the technology is tested and effective in a multifamily setting. Can you talk a little bit more about the single-family expansion and why we should have confidence in that?
To the chair, to the councilwoman, thank you. And I do want to maybe raise another point of clarification. So Phoenix Village Estates in Central, where we have a 35% take rate, where we did just deploy this summer, the white folders and the white papers in the folder are actually endorsements of the technology deployments that we've done. That's actually townhomes. But separately from the multi-dwelling, multi-family unit style, within Morningstar, we actually brought the Morningstar deployment in the Glenville neighborhood live. The last week of August, we actually made the site go live. By that, we had did some piloting beforehand to ensure that we were getting the 100 speeds that we're advertising, and we actually hit the ground running beginning of September, so just think September 1st. And so from September 1st to the end of the month, we've actually, and to the end of the month, we're actually piloting to have 61 subscribers on our network in that neighborhood. Now, why that's important is because the site can actually reach 600. And so the fact that within 1 month, we're able to reach 10% take rate off of one deployment, and doing that within 1 month allows us to actually model that same take rate strategy as we go 120 vertical assets being live throughout the city through the 18-month timeline. And so the point is absolutely heard about our past. I get it. I do think that there is a point of clarification even on the past I do want to raise as well. In 2019, Digital C connects its first customer. And then we all know what happened in 2020. We all know what happened through 2021. We all know what happened through 2022 and to this date. And so I think there is a part of me that really wants to flag that maybe some of us are forgetting the damaging impacts of a pandemic and how challenging it might be to actually deploy and install technology in people's homes at the height of a pandemic. And so as we look at Digital C's past history, a little bit flummoxed, quite frankly, when we begin indexing on this past, where largely a lot of our network growth was through one of the hardest times in American history. And I think that is worth raising. However, even under my leadership alone, again, we are modeling beyond our take rate for citywide deployment and for success within the RFP. And so the proof is absolutely in the results. And the results are we have deployed, we have recent deployments this year that we brought live that are actually modeling beyond the take rate to reach the numbers that we said we're going to reach within the RFP.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I wanted to speak a little bit to the profit and loss statement and financials. No problem. And that the, did I read somewhere that city funding will not be going towards infrastructure development? Is that?
Correct.
Okay.
None of the dollars that we're allocating are going toward infrastructure.
Okay. So I think that is, if that was discussed in the previous hearing, I apologize. That's kind of, I'm assimilating that as new information. When we met in June, Utilities Committee, I'd like to talk a little bit about, you have a $23 million infrastructure cost. So if the city of Cleveland's dollars are not going towards infrastructure, my question through the chair would be whose dollars are, and are those dollars secured?
Mr. Edmonds?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, yes, we do have $23 million. The $3 million earmark, as we remember from the Congressman Brown and Senator Sherrod Brown, as well as the $20 million we have secured from the Mendel and Meyer Foundations.
And those are secured. Those are dollars in the bank.
Those dollars are
They
still
allocated.
with the Mandel Foundation, however, they are allocated to us.
Okay.
And then, thank you, and through the chair, when I read about the Mandel Foundation's gift, it sounded like they didn't reference infrastructure specifically, at least in the materials I was reviewing. Did they understand that their dollars will now be used for infrastructure specifically, through the chair?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, yes. I actually have a very strong relationship with the Mandel leadership. They call me often. And so anytime there's any development, yes, no matter the day or time of day.
Thank you. So just to confirm, the $23 million infrastructure costs will be covered through a $3 million federal earmark, which is secured, and the $20 million gift from the Mandel and Myers Foundations, which is secured.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, yes.
Okay. I wanted to ask a little bit about the relationship with One Community. And, you know, we have to assimilate a lot of information here on this side of the table, but I hope I'm going to place these questions correctly. There is a historical relationship between Digital C and One Community, and it seems like the funding is also, there's a funding stream that has come from One Community to Digital C. But if I understand correctly, that funding kind of has a shelf life. It's going to be winding down. So I wanted to, through the chair, understand the relationship between one community in terms of cash flow from one organization to another, and then when that funding will expire, and then how that gap would be filled in your budget?
Through the chair to the councilman, this is where I'm going to split this between two people at the table today. So one, our board chair, Lance Frew, as well as our chief financial officer, Marlene Piatek. But Lance first.
To the board, through the chair to the councilwoman. The One Community is the parent organization. Digital C is a subsidiary in the most simplistic legal terms. When we launched this, we launched it as a subsidiary to create its own separate legal entity. One Community really has no other active operations other than this. So, in all intents and purposes, One Community will stay as simply a legal entity above it, and then Digital C will be the operating entity. I don't want to get, I think that's the most simplistic way to put it without taking too much time.
On that? Thank you. Through the chair to the councilwoman, what is the reason for maintaining the separation then if the only subsidiary of One Community is Digital C and Digital C and One Community does nothing else? What's the point? What's the reason for the separation?
It's historic. One Community was an operating entity at one time. It built out a fiber optic network throughout the region. That ceased to exist. So the fiber optic network continues to function. It is Everstream. Everstream was providing services to all of the nonprofits in the region, the hospitals and the networks. So when we launched Digital C, it was just simple and cleaner to create a separate entity to do other work rather than commingle it. So that allowed us to, as a board and as an entity, to focus where people are working and how they're functioning. So One Community, again, has no operations, no employees. That may not be technically true. I don't think it has.
Okay,
any.
and so through the chair to the councilwoman, to the gentleman, so Everstream is a completely separate organization
Yes.
with no financial ties to One Community any longer. That's, it was a thing from the past. So the only financial relationships, just to be clear, are between One Community and Digital C. I'm sorry, One Community has no relationship with Everstream, legal connections, and Digital C has no legal connections with Everstream, other than you get space. Sorry.
So would you like me to take it? Yeah, through the chair to the council member.
And I'm done.
There are no ties other than there was some fiber that was granted to us to use for 20 years, which is how we do our internet hookups, and that we have the free connection services. But there are no other legal ties between Everstream and One Community or Digital C.
Thanks.
That's good.
Thank you, Councilman. And I just a couple follow-on questions. I'm understanding this One Community relationship, and I do want to come back to the Everstream point. On the profit and loss statement, it states One Community donations. So what are those donations? That looks like around in the range of $3 to $4 million annually. So what is a One Community donation in terms of how Digital C can operate its operating dollars?
Through the chair to the council members. So the investments sit at the One Community level, and there's a board for One Community and a board for Digital C, and annually the board will determine how much money it wants to donate to Digital C during the year. Right now it's been for operations, and so it's been, originally it was $2 million a year when early days when Lev Gonick was still CEO and Digital C had just been created, and going forward it's been on an as-needed basis.
And through the chair to the CFO, when you say investments, sorry, you said investments. What investments are you referring to?
So when One Community was affiliated with Everstream, it did sell at one point, and from that second sale, we received money through One Community received money, and that is what it's using to fund Digital C.
So it's a one-time pot of funds that is not growing. It's being metered out and dwindling.
Through the council to the council, through the chair to the council member, that's true. There's just a one-time pot of funds.
Okay. And then how many more years will those funds be available for the chair?
It's going to be limited at this point. That we're going to be using the Mandel Foundation money as well as hopefully the city money to continue operations over the next several years until we're self-sustainable in 2028.
Thanks. And that's so I'm getting all this straight in my mind, and it sounded like the Mandel and Myers Foundation's grants were needed for the infrastructure expenses, and the city will get to the term sheet about what the city's investment will be going towards. So then how will operating be covered through the chair?
So through the chair to the council person, there is additional funding that we have secured that doesn't wish to be named at this time. We also do fundraising throughout the year, customer income, customer revenue from the sale of the internet services also, as we go and we increase the customer base, will contribute significantly to that as well.
Mr. Chair, I'm a little concerned about a $4 million potential operating gap if the One Community funding dwindles, but I just will put a pin in that. And then the other piece is about the Everstream relationship, and I think through the chair, you may have mentioned this 20-year commitment. In our materials we were provided, when One Community split into Everstream and Digital C, there was an agreement that Digital C would have free access to Everstream's fiber network for 5 years. So first of all, through the chair, is that accurate? Is it 5 years? Is it 20 years?
Through the chair to the council member, so there's two pieces of it. There is what's called an IRU, an indivisible right to use fiber for 20 years. So we can continue to do connections through Everstream fiber for 20 years. Once a connection is set in place, we get 5 years of free service to that connection. So currently we have several connections. One connection would start the running when that data center, for instance, would be connected. That would start the clock for the 5 years of free service to that specific connection, and then we would start paying a monthly fee for service after that. But we have use of the fiber to continue to do connections for 20 years.
Okay. And then I think this will be my last question about the profit and loss, Mr. Chair, and then I'll come back I'll be on your list for the term sheet. But so currently there's nothing on the expense side of the organization related to paying Everstream to use fiber because it's been within those 5-year windows. So once those 5-year windows begin, it sounds like it'll be a rolling basis, right? This 5-year clock starts, the next 5-year clock starts, and so on. Once those 5-year grace periods start rolling off, what kind of expense does Digital C anticipate in terms of having to pay for Everstream's fiber, and how would that ultimately impact potentially rates, things like that, through the chair?
Through the chair to the councilwoman. So there is a connection that we actually do pay for Everstream right now. So I can give you actual information there. It's $720 a month for a connection through their data center. And we don't have to always use Everstream. If we were to use a Windstream or something like that, we would also have to pay for that service. However, it's built into our budget in our long-term forecast. We have a very robust forecast that is very comprehensive of all expenses as we go over the next 5 years.
I'll yield with that, Mr. Chair, and I know we'll come back. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Harsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess my concern is target take rates, long-term profitability. But first, I want to share something. This is the product being offered through the chair is $18 a month, right? I'm disappointed because 18 times 12 is 216, and why this isn't called 216 for the 216 is beyond me. Somebody had this idea already, right? Somebody thought about this, correct? Who was it? Raise your hand. Who figured this out first?
Through the chair to the councilman, admittedly.
Turn your mic on.
Oh. admittedly, I did bring it up. I did. So
Yeah, and you were
Yeah,
right.
it
It
was-
should be 216 for the 216. It's an annual rate. Okay. Math, right? It's fun. Here's my concern. So through the chair to Mr. Edmonds. In Glenville right now, you said you have 60 or 61 clients on the network that you have serving households, correct?
Including me.
Including you, including the councilman.
No.
And that service hits how many rooftops, individual houses?
So through the chair to the councilman, point of clarification: those 61, that's off of the deployment we just did.
The new one?
Yes,
Great.
correct.
And how many rooftops does that hit? How many people could connect to that if they wanted to?
Through the chair to the councilman, 600 households.
Right, 600. Okay. So, Mr. Chair, the take rate they need is 14%, which would be 84. So if and when they can hit 84 in that Glenville deployment, they would be demonstrating the take rate that they need citywide, because we're using 175,000 households citywide. 14% of that is 24,500. That's the target. The take rate needs to be about 14%. And one of my concerns all along has been, are you going to be able to get 14% take rates? Because that's a market share, and there's other actors in the field, and there's other people. And a lot of people, we know, Mr. Chair, use their cell phones for their internet, and they're comfortable with that, and they've got their apps, and they're happy with what they're doing there, and they can cast their phone onto their TV, and they don't necessarily always feel the need to have a standalone home internet subscription rate. So I just want to clarify that we haven't hit it yet in Glenville, but it looks like you've got 10%, so good progress. Through the chair to Mr. Edmonds, the Phoenix Village, 35%. That's 35% of what?
Through the chair to the councilman, 35% of the available units there.
Of available units in Phoenix Village. And what are how many available units are there? Is that like 35 and there's 100, or is it like 17 and there's 50?
It's like through the chair, it's 98 units in total.
90 that are connected or
No,
exist?
through the chair to 98 that exists.
And so you've got 34, that makes 35%. Okay.
Yeah.
And through the chair to Mr. Evans, are any of them on ACP as well?
Through the chair to the councilman, no, they're not.
So all of them are full paying customers?
Through the chair to the councilman, we do not have a single ACP customer in Digital C.
Okay. Nobody that has the $18 a month then applies ACP to it?
Through the chair to the councilman, this is actually a really good point we can even clarify here too. The majority of people who are using ACP nationally, even within Cleveland, are using it on their cell phone.
Correct. Well, okay, so I'm looking at the RFP document you submitted where, and Mr. Chair, I'll just read from Closing the Digital Divide, Phase 1, Digital C's RFP. Digital C subscriber revenues are generated from a blend of subsidies from Cleveland Metropolitan School District, Cleveland Public Library, and other partners, federal ACP dollars, and monthly payments made by customers. For the period January 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2022, Digital C received subscription revenue from both paying customers, 27%, and subsidies, 73%. Digital C expects this revenue to increase as the number of customers increases and will be sourced from a blend of payments from customers' ACP subsidies and private subsidies. As mentioned above, ACP funding is expected to run out by September 2024. Private subsidies are expected to increase after year 2. So through the chair, how do we make that mix? Because that just seems to contradict.
Through the chair to the councilman, I think one of the points I'd want to highlight is the length. You said June 2022.
Yeah.
Obviously, November 2022. And actually, I can turn this over to our chief financial officer, who can actually walk through the breakdown of our subsidies.
Yes, so we did have ACP customers at one time. There was, I actually can't remember the total amount, but we were getting probably about $1,000 a month or so from the ACP. The problem with the ACP is that they automatically get pulled off one provider's list for ACP and put on another immediately if they switch. So if there is a cell phone carrier standing outside the grocery store saying, let me get you a free cell phone with and get you your ACP dollars for that, as soon as they sign up with that other provider, they come off of our list. There's no notification or anything like that. So we lost a lot of ACP through cell phone use. So they were still customers, but they weren't ACP subscribers anymore because they were getting the ACP subscription through their cell phone then. So that's one of the issues, and we can't control there. But most of our, and I don't want to say most, many of our customers are actually funded through subsidies. So MetroHealth is a large subsidy provider, as well as CMSD.
Through the new acting chair, I'm sure you were, Councilwoman Spencer, you're the chair, I believe.
I'm the chair, yes.
Yes, great. Through the chair. So what is the current subsidy rate? It was 73% from January 1st to June 30th of 2022. That was a year and a half ago-ish. What is the current subsidy rate of subscription revenue?
Through the chair to the council member, I can't do the math in my head, but we have about 70 self-pay customers out of 2,100, so everybody else is on a subsidy.
So 70 of 2,100 customers self-pay.
Right.
All the rest are on a subsidy.
Correct.
So,
CMSD,
Madam Chair,
I'm
this is a tough to project citywide success. Where that is a staggering percentage. 70. Let's do the math. Divided by 2,100 is 3%. Are actually self-paying, and 97% are subsidized. It's hard to project success citywide when you need much higher rates of self-paying customers to compete in a market where people that have wanted internet for years already have it, and people that don't want the internet are using their cell phones and finding ways around it. I'm sorry, Mr. Edmonds, go ahead.
Through the chair to the councilperson, I think that when we look at modeling citywide, I think one of the things that we need to look at, again, is the rates and the socioeconomic conditions on where we're serving. So to this to be an indictment on Digital C is more of an indictment on the conditions within Cleveland. And so I think that when we are looking at citywide, and when we go, quite frankly, to the wards that are represented at this table, we know what that's going to do to our take rate as well on self-paying customers.
And Mr. Chair, I can indict poverty along with you as well. It is a horrific condition that we deal with in this country. And we are all, I believe, partners in trying to figure this out. However, it does present unique challenges, and it does present unique challenges both in every socioeconomic tier that we have in the city, as well as with the connectivity that the literacy issues that we are trying to get around. And I just think it's important for us to be very clear about this. If only 3% are self-paying, then we need to address that and understand that up front, because that is part of the challenge that we're trying to address.
And through the chair to the councilperson, absolutely heard, absolutely agree. And I think that one of the, I'm going to maybe use an anecdotal example here. Last week, I believe it was last week, we actually went out door knocking in Glenville. And the very first door that I knocked on was actually someone whose her home was in foreclosure. And the next house I knocked on, their home was in foreclosure. The next home I knocked on, their home was in foreclosure.
Again, yeah.
And when I'm looking at that, this is a really unique opportunity for Digital C to sit there and say, do we connect that home that's in foreclosure? Does that person deserve internet? And that is a fundamental question that you are seeing within the number of people that we're connecting. This is the fundamental question that we keep asking ourselves over and over and over again. There's a reason why some of these other larger for-profit companies, you don't see them going to these areas. They wrote these areas off. And so to look at Digital C and say that the targeted take rate is essentially an issue, it's more so looking at the areas where we're serving, where these issues are going to be very prevalent, where perpetual bill pay will disenfranchise people at a given time of the year. During tax season, yes, we're going to see a lot more paying customers. We know that. And then right around the holidays, we see a dip.
Absolutely. And Mr. Chair, I think it's really, really good point that Mr. Edmonds is making, that people in Cleveland have really important financial decisions to make every single day, and internet is often a luxury, not a requirement that a lot of people bypass. I think it's important to note here, I was looking at the Ohio broadband map. The state of Ohio maintains a map that shows broadband access throughout the state. And actually the worst parts are always rural. I zoomed in on Cleveland. All of Cleveland is covered by 25 down, 3 up. Almost all of Cleveland is covered by 50 down, 5 up, and 100 down, 10 up. Covers everything except East Cleveland. I think a couple of parks, and maybe something in the industrial flats. So all of Cleveland has access to what we would call high-speed internet. Mr. Chair, and that's important because it really becomes a matter of cost and decision-making. Do people prioritize this, and is it at a cost where they feel comfortable prioritizing this? And I've always thought that that was the major obstacle here and why it's so difficult for us. It's not that the service isn't available. People could have internet if they wanted it. It's there. It's a question of whether or not they prioritize it. And cost, your $18 a month or $216 for the 216 is a fantastic price point. Go ahead.
So through the chair to the councilperson, there's been a lot of discrepancy and discussions around those maps, and that's actually been a historic debate within the broadband community. There are many people who challenge the legitimacy of those maps all the time. When we get down to the ground level, and again, for the folks who are even door knocking with me in Glenville, this is something we can co-sign, that a lot of residents who are covered by these maps will tell you straight up, we don't get these speeds. There is a discrepancy based on what is reported by some of these big companies versus what is the reality of everyday Clevelanders. And so I do want to highlight that while, yes, the map shows coverage, I want to really paint the picture that coverage isn't as equal as we would like it to be, specifically related to customer experience.
Sure. And I mean, that's a good example is my neighborhood. So I live in Old Brooklyn. I don't have fiber to door yet. I still don't have fiber to door, but I have high-speed internet. And I've had it for a long time. So question back to Phoenix Village. Of the 35% subscribed, how long have they been subscribers? Has this been a week, a month, a year, 10 years? How long?
Through the chair to the councilperson, we brought Phoenix Village live actually this summer. So in June, we brought Phoenix Village live, and we actually had our block party in July. And so everything that you're seeing for that take rate is actually what we've been able to accomplish within from June to now.
So 3 months?
Yeah.
Okay. And how many of your subscribers in the Glenville, of the 60, what's the average length? I'm concerned about turnover, right? I mean, people move, you lose customers, you have to go out there, you have to get new customers. We've talked about this. You know, people get something for a while, they don't pay the bill, they get disconnected or whatever. You know, how long have they had in the Glenville?
Through the chair to the councilman, we brought Glenville live effectively September 1st. So a lot of this stuff is a very, very new deployment for us.
Okay, so it looks like it's moving very quickly in the right direction.
Correct.
In terms of adoption rates, okay.
And through the chair to the councilman, I think a lot of the reason why it's moving that way is one, what we've been deploying. Again, when we say superior technology, you know, we're not just saying that as an adjective. It is absolutely that. And two, you know, I've personally been active. I mean, again, I'm going out there, door knocking. My face is on the collateral.
Yeah.
We've knocked on some of these doors 3 times already. Now, to say that, are we going to door knock everywhere? No, because at some point, we're door knocking because we're a little bit anemic on the awareness. I mean, you all know this. People are like, who's Digital C? Who are they again? Like, and we know that. And so I think there's been a very concentrated push on our part to just be very present and then create that awareness. So we've actually had customers in Glenville who are now getting this, who are now knocking on their neighbors' doors, signing their neighbors up for this.
Sure.
So like that is something where we do expect that inertia to carry and translate citywide as the technology remains consistent as well.
Okay. Last thing, Mr. Chair, and then I will stop. Just so that everybody knows, and I'll share my feelings and be up clear about it. I did take a speed test with your customer in Glenville. He had 13 down and 20 up. This was a front porch test, so not close to the router. Also, it's not a number that terribly worries me. 13 down, 20 up. He was watching something on his tablet on his front porch. That seems to be pretty typical internet usage. You know, we get less in this room. We speed tested this room last time. I think we had 3 down, 5 up in here, and I'm online. You know, so 13 down, 20 up doesn't scare me. It's not a horrible number. It's not 100. So let's just put that out there.
Well, through the chair to the councilman, I'm taking that off of what's out there because, respectfully, there's a few factors that I want to raise. If we're going to do a speed test for home internet, we got to be in the home to do it. No different than if we were going to do a speed test for a Wi-Fi network, we'd be outside to do it. And so I do want to raise that point. There's some things that, you know, are worth qualifying. So we don't know the thickness of the wall when you did the speed test. We also don't know internally how many connected devices we're actually running inside that customer's house either. And so I want to be very clear that consistently I'm standing behind this product as well as this team, that this delivers 100-100. Not 98/20, not 90, not 100-100 minimum.
Well, Mr. Chair, we can possibly run more tests. I'm actually just saying that I'm not terribly concerned about not having 100-100. I really think, I think, 50-25 is more than anybody uses, and more than almost anybody needs for home access. And I think that this 100-100 standard has just become, I don't know, this sort of odd round number that people are attracted to that doesn't really it doesn't really reflect the needs of people in the community. I don't think I've ever used 100. I don't know who uses it. But it's neither here nor there. We could get into the numbers later. The guy was watching a video on his front porch and he was happy with his service. So hey, it's doing what he wants it to do. Councilwoman, on that?
My turn. Can I have a point?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I just want to have a point on the whole question of, I'm not, you're better at describing this than I am. That said, we are at the table discussing a deal that includes this stated promise, for lack of a better word, of 100 up, 100 down. But however, I was going to ask a question about that because I've heard it described in two ways. I've heard it described as absolutely it will be 100 up, 100 down, or I've heard we'll try to make it consistent, or, so it's really, what is the bottom line on the upload, download speeds that customers will get through Digital C? Is it always 100 up, 100 down? We'll try to make it, as consistent as we can. And then there's what Councilman Harsh is commenting on.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, always 100-100. That is the commitment. There is no deviation to that. I don't see success any less than that. So 100-100 is what I'm committed to. I don't have any tattoos, but that might be one of them. And in addition to the 100-100, I want to be clear what that number actually means. So I'll be brief in this one. However, anecdotally, the history of high-speed internet in this country for more of the last few years, it's been 25 download, 3 upload. One would ask, why is there a discrepancy? Why 25 and why 3? What does that even mean? Well, 25 download, that's your ability to take in content. So if I'm a big, cable company and I have content, I would want people to download more things, but I don't really want them uploading things. That's why it's 3. And so when we say 100-100, we don't really have content at Digital C that we want people ingesting en masse. We know that we're in the streaming economy now. We have Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, whatever you name it. 100 allows for that seamless experience, quite frankly, tenfold. And to Councilman Harsh's point, does everybody, an individual, a single person, maybe need 100 megabits? It depends on what they do. By and large in Cleveland, if you're a single person living by yourself, you're probably not going over 100. But the 100 upload speed, that corresponds to what you're going to see much more from entrepreneurs, what you're going to see from those home-based enterprises where they're doing a whole lot of stuff. I'll be honest, we get into the Bitcoin realm of the conversation. The Bitcoin miners. It's people who are very active with pushing out their products. This is us enabling entrepreneurship in the gig economy. And while we know from a percentage standpoint, you're not going to see an overwhelming people using that stuff today, but this is us building a network. When we say premier state of the art, it is not based on where we currently are. It's a vision where we see that Cleveland can be, where we're not going to be limited by our upload speeds either.
All right, anything else?
Mr. Chair, I think that the vast majority of home use does not rely on large upload ability. The vast majority of home use does rely on large download ability. That's what people are using the internet for. If you upload for some reason a lot of video content to the internet for home use, A, interesting, B, rare, then maybe the upload speeds would be really important to you. But or if you're running a business, if you're Bitcoin mining, we should talk offline about your choices. But that's it's unusual.
All right, thank you, Councilman Harsh. Councilman Conwell, and I don't want to cut anybody short, okay? But we still have the term sheet to go over. We're going on 12:30, and I'd like to try to.
Mr. Chair, and I get that. I have a 1:30 to go to also. To build my neighborhood up. But let me say this to the chair, to also the council member Harsh. You walked the neighborhood with me before. We saved a lot of houses, dealing with foreclosures, and you know the people in the neighborhood very, 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 very well. You know, and so when you look at it, when the director here mentioned, and you were talking about Glenville, and how come we always have to be last? And how come we can't have the best? Okay, and then when you look at, but wait, it's good for the gander, it's good for the geese. When you look at other areas, they have great home internet. And then the councilman himself, when we were online dealing with virtual, I have AT&T. Mine kept crashing and crashing in the Glenville community. You know what I had to do? Come right down here, go into my office in City Hall to get it online, where everyone else was at home. That's not good. That's not good at all. If I can't get through, so the wife went out and she purchased Digital C. That's how we got it. Because I had to ask the boss first, my wife first, could I purchase it? Because she'll say, no, dear. But she liked it, and we purchased Digital C. It have not crashed, and so we're happy with that. We need to have the best. The city is spending money to build up neighborhoods like Glenville, and we're doing a good job. However, the new residents, they're purchasing homes in Glenville, and they're asking the question to the council member, how come we don't have the same kind of technology, internet, where they came from your neighborhood or the other neighborhoods in the city of Cleveland or in the suburbs? They deserve that. We deserve that. Now, moving forward, I like performance-based measurements, to the chair. I like that. You hit your dependencies, you hit your milestones, you receive a check. If you don't hit it, then we have some issues going down the line, and then we need to move away from you, or we see that you're not hitting your dependencies, then we go elsewhere. But the city, through the chair, the city, when I listen to Councilmember Mike Polensek, it's the city job also, because we have oversight, is to monitor it. You know you have to do that. You have to monitor what they're doing. I'm not saying through the chair, director, that you guys are bad people, but the residents entrust us to monitor, not just you, but everybody that comes to the table. Trust, but verify.
And that, Councilman, is where we're leading to next.
There you go. There you go. All
Because
right.
we don't have Digital C where I live.
No,
right? But you have it, right? So, but one of the things that we
I
wanted
need
to
it.
make sure.
I need Digital
One of the
C.
things
That's
we
why I
wanted to
be
make
getting
sure was
it.
that by the time this is done, that everybody has access to Digital C. So we're
Right.
going to move on to the third phase of this, which is the term sheet, which is what this legislation is attached to, right? So
No, I do not have that. Mr.
it is, we got a copy, we have an extra copy, we got a hard copy there. So it was no surprise at the last hearing that council has the reservations regarding Digital C. Myself and Chief Davis and Mr. Edmonds and numerous members of the board have had hundreds of conversations regarding how we're going to make this work with Digital C, including me giving the option to the administration to go back out for RFP because I didn't believe that this was going to get passed through the council as it sat originally, okay? So through a bunch of conversations, through me having conversations with my colleagues, the original proposal for the 20 million was $13 million in infrastructure and I think $7 million in education, correct? That's right. So what we decided to do was that was never going to work for the council, just because we know that building the infrastructure, we believe it could be obsolete in 6 months, a year, whatever it is, because technology is constantly changing. You guys are more the experts on that. You believe more in the infrastructure than we do. We wanted to see as many Cleveland residents as humanly possible get connected to the internet and educated. So what we decided to do was change the term sheet of the original piece of legislation to the current term sheet that I believe council will be comfortable with, the administration will be comfortable with, and according to Digital C, they'll be able to hit their goals and objectives. So the way that the term sheet is going to be passed, if it passes through this, is it's a 4-year term sheet starting in January of 2024, correct?
Through the chair,
Correct.
dependent on us getting our contracting
Right.
order, but
I mean,
anticipated,
Right.
exactly.
It's anticipated that it's not going to take the administration 3 months to get the contract drawn up and everything. It is our goal, and it is the council's anticipation that this will be ready to go through the administration on January 1st, 2024, for lack of a better terms, right? I mean, that's, so, everything is going to be performance-based, and Digital C will have to prove themselves for the first year before any of the dollars is dispersed. And the way those dollars are dispersed is within the first year, Digital C agrees to sign up 3,500 new customers to the internet who either have not had internet in the past or were on the affordability plan and are no longer on it, correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay. In addition to that, within the first year, they're going to provide adoptive services or digital literacy to 7,500 Cleveland residents. If those two goals are met, if you meet the 3,500 new subscribers, then the city agrees to $1,750,000 in the first year. Within that first year also, if you provide digital literacy to 7,500 customers, then the city will agree to the $2 million. So in the first year, if you sign up 3,500 new subscribers and educate 7,500 people, that's a total of $3.75 million of the $20 million, all right? Every year is a different year. The second year is 4,700 new customers at a price of $2,350. Also in year 2, it's 10,000 people that will receive digital literacy for a price of $2 million. Year 3 is 7,100 new subscribers for a price of $3,550,000, and 15,000 individuals that will receive digital literacy for a price tag or for an amount of $2 million. And then year 4, you'll sign up 8,200 new customers for $4.1 million, and then 17,500 people receive digital literacy at a price tag of $2,250,000. Each year is in and of itself, so you either reach the goals in that specific year or the money is not dispersed. So in other words, if it starts, we'll just say January 1st, 2024, you have until January 1st of 2025 to reach the first year goals. You either reach the goals or you don't reach the goals. It's not, we almost made it. It's not, we made it plus some. There's no additional money. God bless you. As myself and Mr. Edmonds have had this term, we hope it's more, right? Because that means that things are working. But then once January 2025 hits, the second year starts. And the numbers are what the numbers are for the second year. And then at the end of the second year, the numbers stop. You either have reached it or you haven't. The third year is a separate year, then the fourth year is a separate year. So all of this is performance-based for a total of signing up to 23,000, at least 23,500 new households for a cost of $11.75 million of the 20, and then educating at least 50,000 new residents for a price tag of $8.25 million. So this is all 100% completely performance-based, and Digital C has to float the first year because it's all reimbursed on work that's been performed. We're not upfronting the money, hoping that you get your goals. You have to meet your goals in order to receive the money. That's how the term sheet reads. Chief, if you wanna add, delete, nullify, whatever. I just want to make sure that I went over every one of those years, because I don't want anybody to come back saying, we almost did it. We only signed up 3,497 people. Sorry, you didn't hit the 3,500, right? So you're not, the council doesn't want to have those funds released, right? So I'm comfortable with this being performance-based and not just giving Digital C the dollars. I think this is a very good compromise because it protects public dollars and it incentivizes Digital C, as we've had thousands of conversations, how Digital C really does have to rebrand themselves as not being over-promising and under-delivering, right? And we believe that when we all sat down in a room together, that these were achievable goals, not easily achievable goals, but they're achievable. So we don't want you to fail. And trust me, nobody wants more than you come back here January of 2025 to report back to say, hey, we reached these goals, because that means we made the right decision by holding you accountable for the dollars, and you guys have done what you actually say you will be able to do, which you haven't done in the past, which is fine, which was the red flag for council in distributing these funds. So does anybody want to comment on the term sheet?
To the chair and to the committee, I'll just say that's exactly, your recitation of the term sheet is exactly our understanding of it as well. It's in plain English here on the page. It is, like I said in my opening statement, aggressive. And I think that's, I'm not to be a flatterer, but that's a testament to your leadership. You came into our meetings, our contract negotiations, knowing what needed to happen in order to get this done. And this is what needed to happen. No money up front, paying only for performance, only after performance.
And just, let's make it clear, I didn't contract negotiation.
No, but
no way, shape, or form was I involved in any of the contract negotiation. These are just, this is what the council felt comfortable with. This is what Digital C feels comfortable with. At least that's the impression that I'm under. We'll hear from them in a second. Their board, their finance people, all their supporters, right? Because this doesn't just fall on the heads of Digital C. If you're not, part of us agreeing to this was the fact that United Way is behind you, is the fact that all these letters of support and everybody shows, their confidence in you. Me personally, I don't have as much confidence as others may do, but I'm willing to meet in the middle, which is why we wanted to do the performance-based as opposed to just giving dollars away, so that if somebody comes back to us later and says, where'd that $20 million go? We can't say, well, we don't know, because this is actually going to show us, and either you earn the dollars or you don't. So if we could hear from Digital C and then their board.
Will you open it up to us?
Yeah, I want to hear from them first regarding.
Through the chair to the committee, really. When we saw that term sheet, and this was not a easy back and forth. I mean, this did take some time, locked away in a room for us to reach this. Consensus is the hardest thing to achieve in any equation, even significantly harder than the goals outlined here. And when I look at that term sheet, every single year, it allows us to reassess where we are. That's what we're committed to doing. When I came in, that's exactly what I had to do, which is exactly why I'm at this table today. And so we've taken the necessary stride to do that. And as we look at January, we're looking at it with optimism, but we know the task ahead of us. And we know that every single time we go up that hill, we go down another one, and there's a bigger one behind it. Down, and then there's a bigger one behind that. That's our next 4 years. The team I have at the table, the team behind us, the team that's still at the Midtown Tech Hive where we're headquartered, they're committed to doing that. Our funders, the letters of support, they're numerous, and we're all committed to it. So we do appreciate, Chairman, your leadership on really showing us how these things can coexist between the administration, obviously the residential priorities, you all's responsibilities on council, and then even Digital C, making sure that we're all good here. So we do appreciate that consensus exercise.
Thank you.
To the chair, to the committee, again, thank you. As Joshua knows, I'm I'm more comfortable behind the scenes. My title is Chief Operating Officer. I was also Chief Financial Officer and President of MCPC when they moved from Strongsville to Cleveland. I like getting things done. That's my DNA. What I'm excited about this deal is it gives us the freedom and the capacity to execute, to start moving forward. It lines up our capital stack. It allows us to start, and I'll try not to go into finance speak. We have more plans in terms of our ability to finance the entity. It is contingent upon this. Absent the city showing some form of commitment, our hands are largely tied. This gives us the flexibility to start moving forward with our partners and start exploring other avenues and to grow Digital C to cover the entire city. That's what the board's been waiting for. That's what's going to allow us to execute. I'm excited about, I know the council wants quarterly updates, as you might imagine. I will want something more frequent than that.
Oh, okay.
I don't. As board chair and as how I'm wired in my DNA, this is something that's going to require a tempo and a pulse and an execution and reporting that is something that is squarely in my wheelhouse, something I'm comfortable with. And if I may at this one moment, because I'm also a geek and a technologist, and I'm responsible also for making sure that our employees are capable of working from home, the subject of what people need to be able to work from home, using their phone for internet at home, means they're unemployable by us. A 3 upload speed or a 5 upload speed means they're basically unemployable by us at their home. And we expect all of our employees to be fully functional at their homes. So the modern technology using video technology, voice, having multiple people on a single home, on a broadband connection. So the pandemic changed how businesses operate. The criticality of upload speeds and download speeds is, the business community is going to want to hear that the people of Cleveland have high upload and download speeds, because absent that, their ability to be employed is limited. We experienced this firsthand with some of our employees who weren't able to work from home and had to come to the office during the pandemic. We kept it open and kept it safe for them. But primarily, again, getting back to this deal, commitment from the council on the deal gives us the ability to execute. And frankly, that's what we've been waiting for. Technology is there, the team is there. I personally have no doubts on our ability to meet the terms of this agreement.
All right, thank you very much for that. Does anybody else have anything before I open it up to members of council that they'd like to say? Everybody's good? Everybody's in support? Everybody's hungry because it's lunch?
Yeah.
Mr. Edmonds, are you good?
Things here, yes.
All right, open up to questions from
Yeah, I wanna do that.
council. Councilwoman Spencer.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And as I noted earlier, you were those of us who get to work frequently, daily with Brian Casey know how hardworking he is. He's an extremely diligent individual. And I thank you for all involved for spending this summer working on this term sheet and bringing it forward today. I know this represents a tremendous amount of work, so I want to honor that work that was done collaboratively under Councilman Casey's leadership. I was interested in, this is pretty crystal clear, right? And I think I'm interested in the performance-based payments related to the new internet household subscriptions. And those year 1 through 4 numbers are there because ultimately the goal is to get to 23,500 households, right?
Because that's what the RFP called for.
Right,
yes.
right. So my one question, the one thing that jumped out at me related to this that I did want to ask Digital C is, I find it notable that these are not cumulative. So in other words, there's a sentence, overperformance in an earlier year does not reduce or otherwise impact the requirements of a later year. So I'm curious, why did Digital C agree to that? And in some ways, you know, if you're in year one able to subscribe 3,800 individual households rather, not 3,500. So why did Digital C agree to that term?
Mr. Edmonds?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, we agreed because, well, all right, well, we agreed because at the end of the day, the 23,500 new subscribers, that's not the limitation on everybody that would choose Digital C. We have obviously 170,000 plus people here who are all potential customers of ours. And the point is heard on Councilman Polenzek about, you know, a third of my residents might not. But I'm like, give us opportunity to earn your business. And so the 23,500, that's where we're fixated. That's the baseline for success. I'll be very transparent at this table for everyone to hear. I'm not committed to the baseline. And so that is what we absolutely have to do as a minimum to satisfy the requirements. But I see Cleveland as an opportunity. I see Cleveland as a real unique opportunity for us. We're the underdog. That's in Cleveland's DNA. We know that. We're headquartered here. These other ones aren't. We have strategic advantages that are going to allow us to actually connect more than. So we're not doing business to satisfy the conditions of the RFP. It just so happens that in us satisfying conditions of the RFP, we're going to get funded to do it. We've been connecting households prior to this deal, and even as you hear us talk about new deployments, again, this is prior to this deal. And so for us, it's in our DNA. We're committed to doing it. That's just what the baseline looks like for us.
Okay, and then there was another piece I wanted to call out here. There's a clause that says payments are contingent on services consistency and reliability. And so through the chair, I wanted to ask who will be measuring that, and how will consistency and reliability sound great? How will that be measured, and who will be doing the measuring?
Chief?
Thank you. Through the chair to the councilwoman. It is a good question. The term consistency and reliability it's drawn directly from the ARPA final rule FAQ guidance. It's a term that basically means that it works, that we're not paying for signups for a system that doesn't do what it's promised to do. So I don't want to confuse or make it seem like those terms indicate that there is anything less than a commitment to full-throated 100 service for $18 a month for every Cleveland resident, access to it. So that said, I think Mr. Edmonds can walk through sort of the step-by-step of the way that we can confirm that that speed is being reached. I'll just say there's a lot on the back end. This is a network designed for these speeds. At the installation level, we're looking at a speed test before the installer leaves the individual's home to confirm that the speeds are being reached. And then in the emergent space, there's an operating center that confirms and tracks the operations of this network over time to make sure, red lights go off when it's not providing the speeds that it does. But Mr. Evans.
To the chair, to the councilwoman, again, that is a great question. Consistency and reliability, that's actually a strong selling point for ours. So any degradation of that is actually eating into our success for this RFP. And so from a reporting standpoint, to what Mr. Davis has just shared, every single time we connect or install a household, we do a customer speed test, and then they certify that they're getting those speeds. And so if we're seeing 23,500 signatures, or even in the given year, the 3,500 in the first, we know that 3,500 people are getting 100 over 100 because that's what goes into the service level agreement between us and the customer. What we can share in that case is the actual speed test information, and that can go into our quarterly optimization audits that we're going to be sharing with this body.
And Councilwoman, on that point, I did have a conversation with our CFO, Chief Abinama, who indicated to me that they, as with every city contract, they do an audit before any funds are dispersed to assure that the city's getting what it is that they agreed upon, and they're paying for what's supposed to be provided.
Through the chair, if I may, I should have brought that up as well. Yes, our finance department has an internal audit function that is designed specifically for contracts like this. It's not contracts that are going well or bad. It's a typical function of city government.
I think that was my last burning question, Mr. Chair. I know we're not quite through with our hearing today. I'll just say that if this does pass today, this legislation, then sounds like it's just a big goal, and sounds like council will want to be involved in helping to get the word out.
Right.
So, okay.
So through the chair to the councilwoman, I do have to mention this as a resident of your ward. I'm absolutely committed to working with this body. You know, Councilman Conwell, again, we have obviously worked with him and walking the streets in Glenville. And we also know Councilman Harsh has a history of community organizing, for which he still does that to this day. And so for us, the commitment to working with council, we don't want this to be a thing of, well, we just come back to talk to you all at the table. We would rather it be that, you know, we have such a relationship that, you know, you all know exactly where we are in a given year. So by the time we are in Detroit Shoreway, we know, you know, the doors that we're knocking based on the count. I want that, and I desire that type of relationship with each of you.
Is that good, Councilwoman? All right. Councilman, do you have? Harsh. Councilman Harsh.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have 3 questions through the chair. Regarding the new internet household subscriptions, are those targets for subsidized or unsubsidized households?
Through the chair to the councilman, those targets, I guess they're both, really.
Both.
So,
Okay.
yeah, we're going after both.
So, Mr. Chair, I would ask that we think a little bit more about subsidized versus unsubsidized, because subsidies go, they come and they go, mostly go. But unsubsidized are actual monthly paying customers who you can actually start to build income projections around. I would ask that we clarify that or have some kind of understanding with this term sheet of the role of subsidized households in our accounting.
Let her
I would say, Mr. Chair, through the chair to the councilman, I wanted to do a clarifying point earlier on the subsidies. The subsidies through Metro Health and CMSD, they provide for everybody in that particular area, or CMSD, the school district. So it's not whether people can pay or can't pay. So there are there are probably a vast majority, or at least a good portion of CMSD students who can afford the $18 a month, but just don't have to right now. So we don't want to look at it as 93% of, or what was it, 97% are on subsidies because they have to be.
Well, understood through the chair. We won't know how many people on the ACP subsidy will continue to pay for the service that they're currently getting subsidized for. We won't know until it expires. We'll all find out together how many people say, I don't want this service anymore because the ACP went away and I don't feel like paying. But I just think it's important for us to clarify, we're essentially, and if anybody didn't do the math, we're essentially reimbursing Digital C $500 per connected household. That's per connected household.
That was the number we came up with.
That's what the math is. I mean, that's just, everybody had to have talked about this, right? We just put it out in a different version of the same language. But those households, to contribute to the sustaining long-term vision of Digital C, need to be paying households. The 24,500 paying households get you to your operational budget that you presented last time you were here. That's 5.2, almost 5.3 million, which gets you right to the 6 million, and you subsidize the rest through, you're still a nonprofit, you still get nonprofit revenue streams, but those houses need to be paying in order for them to achieve that. And if they're subsidized households, then they're not going to be able to get to that financial goal. And I think we should have that conversation now, then worry about it later when it turns out that the math isn't matching up, even though the households look like they are, because so many were subsidized, they lost the subsidies and they left the service.
And on that point, I remember when we were having conversations, part of the conversation was, as they build their technology out to different parts of the city, they'll be able to take care of the subsidized individuals almost first, and as they build out to the outer rings of the city is where they'll be able to have proven themselves, and it would be easier to pick up customers who are not subsidized. I think that was your goal in conversations that we've had.
Through the chair to the councilperson, absolutely, that's correct. And I want to be clear too, because I get it. Sustainability is absolutely top of mind. We don't want to see this stuff. 4 years you do that, then it's like, okay, year 5, what are you all doing? Then we're trying to, so no. I think that one of the points I do want to raise though, we have been engaged in numerous times by private donors who are looking to pay for Clevelanders Internet. So that is something I do want to raise, that, you know, this is, our internet is 65 cents a day. So when you boil it down, it's like, all right, a congregation could take care of a neighborhood. So I do want to make the point that there are absolute inroads to this, that if we go into subsidizing and unsubsidizing, but there's opportunities for people in our community to actually subsidize people's internet, then I think that that's what other people are going to do, because they've expressed that as well.
Let me ask this, Mr. Chair, can we put into the performance-based structure a clarification that new households will be reported as subsidized and unsubsidized, so that we know what that split is, and so that we can help, so that we can sort of see where the revenue is projecting? Would that be acceptable to everyone? I don't know if that's an amendment to this.
Are you making an amendment?
Okay,
to the-
I
to the
will make
term
that
sheet?
amendment.
Yeah. That when you report out, so I can't do it, so you have.
Through the chair, just to the councilperson, it may be best as an amendment to the reporting requirement.
Well,
yeah.
And I'm going to actually come back to it, because my last question was, how do we do this with the legislation that I looked at, which doesn't have phase in? So my last question was how we even attach this to
Because
that.
the legislation refers to the term sheet.
So we just need to amend the term sheet.
Exactly.
And I apologize, Mr.
And
Davis,
I
is that what
don't
you were
know
saying?
if, I don't know if, we'll do it just to cover our bases, but we also have other amendments, so
Okay.
we'll add that amendment into this amendment. So if you want to write your
Okay,
amendment
sure. I'll
so
come
we
right back
do
to it.
All right.
Question number 2, through the chair. On the providing digital adoption services, the adoption service numbers, it says adoption services are those provided through the consortium, which is other organizations, navigators or ambassadors. Adoption service recipients are individual Cleveland residents who have received adoption services. How do we verify, through the chair, who receives adoption services? Is it somebody knocked on their door and talked to them for a minute? Is somebody went to a class? How are we measuring that? Because that turns out to be a healthy chunk of money.
Well, through the chair to the councilperson, at one point I do want to call up our Director of Community Outreach and Engagement, LaDonna Norris, to the table.
Okay.
Come on. You're fine. Okay.
It's on the back? I knew it was double-sided. I didn't read both sides.
And LaDonna, I would ask for you, one, to provide kind of like that overarching and even the activities that we are constituting as adoption services to the councilman.
All right, through the chair to the councilman, thank you for your question. So we do have a robust plan to be able to reach people, and we use a tool that's currently...
Speak in a little, either a little louder or
Real.
over the mic.
Sure, is this one?
Oh, yeah.
We currently, we have been doing this work again with our respected partners, so these aren't new relationships. We all work together and provide training around the city, and we'll continue to do so. As far as, I think your question was about how do we count it, or how do they sign up?
Yeah, how do you
we engage
put somebody
them?
in the adoption service recipient column?
Absolutely. So there's several opportunities for people to sign up. First of all, CNP has a robust team that's going out door to door. They're the boots on the ground, knocking on doors, engaging customers, letting them know that the services are available, and allowing them to know that they can sign up for classes within their neighborhood and other places around the city. And then secondly, we have digital navigators who are trained to understand digital equity, to provide internet service, but also be able to refer them to devices and training.
So through the chair, is a adoption service, is someone who receives an adoption service somebody who talked to a person at their door, or somebody who did something as a result of that conversation?
It's
I guess
not-
I'm just curious. Are we knocking on 7,500 doors and calling it $2 million worth of work?
Yeah. Through the chair to the councilperson. So how we're looking at adoption services, it really corresponds to the needs that we see in the community that are manifesting. So in the first things first, we know that not everybody's going to sit through a digital literacy class. We know that. And so that's where the digital navigation stuff comes into play, where it's more so digital skilling or digital needs on demand. So we are counting in both cases the participants who are going to a class and also, or in addition to, participants who are engaging with digital navigation support. And so we can count that. We already do count that information, and thankfully we've actually integrated a tool that is used in other markets, because what we're doing on the adoption side is what people do across the country. So digital navigation is common. The last part on the community ambassador side, it's not door knocking from a sales standpoint where we, with a permit, are knocking on the door to get a sale and saying that's adoption. Rather, as we're engaging with people, letting them know that these are the resources available, and if there are things that we can help with them on demand at their door, then we will count that as an adoption service. If, for example, someone's like, yeah, you know, I've been having trouble with X, Y, or Z, and then them walking them through and them helping with that. Now, that's obviously not going to be something where it's home-based support, where if someone's having trouble with a Roku device, well, no, that doesn't constitute adoption services. But if there are just pressing and prevalent issues as we go out into the community, the goal is not to count someone to say, well, we knocked on the door, we're done. The goal is actually to build a relationship, and as we're doing classes in the community, as we're doing digital navigation support in community centers, we now have a referral network that we're able to then refer those people to off of the door knocking as well.
Mr. Chair, my concern is that if receiving referrals from ambassadors counts as adoption services, then we could potentially just flyer 7,500 people with a $266 flyer. And that's my concern. Like, I'm not new to door knocking. I understand organizations that want to get paid for door knocking. There's real value in the work that people do to go out into the neighborhood and talk to people. It's not as easy as it sounds. It's really not as easy to be productive while you do it. But we're trying to put metrics on what we are looking to be safeguards of this money while putting metrics on performance. So I feel like the definition of adoption service recipient is a little too vague. Coaching and digital literacy training, that sounds good. Direct assistance for signing up to federal programs, that sounds great. That sounds like stuff we can really measure too. Did somebody participate in something? Was there an activity? Direct provisions of devices, that I understand as well. If somebody needs a device and you get a device into their hand and say, hey, now this person has a laptop, they can use the internet, that's fantastic. I guess I'm concerned about receive referrals from ambassadors who canvass door to door and refer residents to resources. That's a flyer.
Through the chair to the council member, you know, I understand that, and I get the vagueness of those, because when you compare them, you know, there's a lot of apples over here and that sounds like an orange. And so I think that what makes a lot of sense for us as we think through this, and I'm glad that you did highlight the provision of devices, because yes, that's absolutely right. If we are able to provide a device, we are meeting the need, and that could actually be something where, through the door knocking, that could actually be something we're able to assess too.
Absolutely.
So
and federal programs, you could actually help people with other things while you're there. I'm
correct.
a big fan of door knocking. That's just how we measure it.
So, well,
Right.
I guess this isn't my decision then.
Yeah.
Again, through the chair to the council person. So the data tool that we use verifies every single person. They get an assigned number, so we can say this person received this service. We can tailor it in order to track each person and what service they received, what type of training,
Yeah.
what they attended.
And through the chair, I think that'd be a very good idea. So if we were to track whether or not they, you know, did some literacy training, signed up for a program, got a device, what actual impact that connection had. What I don't want to see is that we ran out real quick, we hammered 7,500 doors, left a bunch of flyers, and therefore we got $2 million because we met the digital adoption benchmark.
And I don't think that was the intent.
It's never the intent. I'm just
Right.
saying.
No, I get it. No, I'm the one that,
Oh, and by the way, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your fantastic work on this. I really am much happier with this concept than I was a month or two ago. This is, I think, very, very workable.
As you're writing any of the things, what if we just, would Digital C be comfortable with striking, just receiving referrals from who canvass door to door? I mean, are you comfortable enough?
That's
that
your
you guys are
vehicle for
gonna be-
doing the work. The outcome should be more measurable.
Right. Are you guys comfortable with part of your adoption services just being 2, 3, and 4?
Through the chair to the Councilman, well, actually through the chair to the committee, I think one of the parts, I know that we're meeting in the middle on a lot of this stuff, and we are, because again, I mean, we're meeting in the middle. And when we look at this adoption stuff, I get the oversight that's being used here to say, well, we don't want Digital C to go out and 7,500 people were, but at the same time, I want to really highlight, one, this has been what Digital C's been doing since the very beginning. Like, this goes back to 2015 of digital literacy and skilling training. And so to suggest that we would do what's against what we've done, that's just not who we ever been. So I understand, I'm sensitive too, but quite frankly, we believe in this work because we believe in this work. We don't believe in it to the extent of the RFP. And so we're not committed to knocking on doors and calling that success. We don't need a cheap win here. What we're committed to doing, as you see in that multifaceted approach, the digital literacy and skilling is where we started, where we've always been. The digital navigation is backed nationally, and we're committed to doing that as well. The door knocking is a part of that strategy. I can say with confidence, that's not the majority. We do have a digital literacy and skilling calendar where more than likely we're going to reach those goals within 6 months of a year with our committed partners on the classes alone. And so I think that the thing I'm pushing back to is the worst case scenario that we would do to essentially getting funding when that's just not how we operate. But what I don't want to do at the same time is I don't want to remove that either.
Mr. Chair, I think that what I'm saying is that door knocking is a means, not an end. It's a way to do something. I think we should count the something more than the way to do it. Door knocking is a good method of getting some things done. We should count the things that get done as a result rather than the doors that get knocked.
And something you just said, Mr. Edmonds, also, this work is being done by Digital C, correct? Not partners of Digital C. This is work that's being done. In other words, I don't want to see Digital C get $2 million for work that United Way did, and you're just riding their coattails and using that as metrics.
Through the chair to the councilman, so through our work, I mean, obviously, we do have a consortium. We did mention the consortium too. I mean, we are going to rely on Cleveland Neighborhood Progress, specifically in the CDC network, for a lot of this work. Now, that work is going to be funded out of this, so it's not like they're already going to be doing something in another social service aggregate. We're going to be counting that. No, we're not committed to that. And to be honest, I think that they would let you all know if we were doing that before we get a chance to say anything anyway. However, yes, you're absolutely right. Digital C and through subcontracting from Digital C as well.
So I guess, Mr. Chair, to the Utilities Committee, are you guys comfortable with door knocking as a metric or taking that out? I guess it's a question for us at this point. I mean, I would encourage that we remove the first adoption service, digital adoption and training service, from ways to measure outcomes or accomplishments.
Are you adding that as one of your amendments?
I'm adding the first one about reporting the separation between subsidized and unsubsidized, but I believe that these will be voted on as a collective.
Right.
So I'm sort of trying to get a feel for the room.
I'm not in the committee.
You're not even on this committee. Right, no, you're just hanging out. Gotcha.
They're going to meet it whether it's door to door. Just add it in as one of your amendments.
Add it? Okay. Last question. Nope, that was the last question. Yep, all set.
Councilman Bishop?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I just want to take a moment to thank you for your leadership, your hard work on this piece of legislation. It's a sigh of relief that we can walk out of here knowing that we can deliver for Clevelanders and we can get this thing started and get Digital C to working. I want to tell Digital C, I also want to thank the administration for being open to meet us in the middle and to set a road where this council can feel good about going forward and trying to bring this digital divide and trying to close this digital divide for our Clevelanders. Also, I want to thank Digital C for the team you put together and I am going to be committed. I'm going to be one of your future customers, okay? So, Mr. Chairman, I do really appreciate all the work that you've done on this, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No problem. That's, Councilman Conwell, you got the last comment on the term sheet?
Very much. I want to say, and felt some kind of way when I looked at the director. I'm not going to leave you out there bowling alone. You're in Glenville. So when you start executing an award, you reach out to me. We will put you in a newsletter. We will also invite you to our community meetings. I will introduce you to the key stakeholders in the community, because I can't leave you out there by yourself. And let me say that to our council members. This young man, I mean, you mentioned Morningstar, but you don't know my neighborhood, and they don't know you. So you're trying to hit these numbers. They're going to call my phone and say, who is this guy, Councilman? Someone just called me yesterday about someone knocking on doors. So in leadership, I got to get out there and I have to help you to show you the way. Now, over to Chief Davis, right? It's up to you to monitor and control. You got to tell us, are they hitting the milestones, whatever the case may be. And I don't want to say that I got you or something like that. You try to figure out what's going on and if you need our help, because we're all in this together. And I kind of felt a certain way. I felt the atmosphere that when we said that, all right, it was like a divide. It can't be a divide. It must be council members and key stakeholders in the city that want us to succeed for the good of the whole. And as a council member and as a leader, and one of the second longest person here on city council, I must show you the way. And when you're in Glenville, just come knock on the door, talk with me, talk with Yvonne. We will get you there, even if we have to host a technology town hall meeting with the key stakeholders at Truvine Church or Glenville Recreation Center. I gotta do that. I can't leave you out there bowling along. That's what I want to say. I gotta make it to my 1:30 meeting. I'm there. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Matter of fact, you did a great job. I'm not on the committee, Chairman. I've been watching what's going on because I have to study, to seek to understand, and you're doing a great job. And you reached out not only to your committee, but you're letting other council members know who's not on your committee. So I thank you very, very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. And I got to go, you guys. Do we have a quorum if I'm gone?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, cool beans. See
All
you
right.
later.
Thank you, Councilman Conwell. All right, so we have amendments to the piece of legislation. Again, I want to read into the record the amendment that came along with the legislation. Then we have some other ones to make. So there's no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, insert new section 14 to read as follows. Section 14, that the Director of Finance, Economic Development, or other appropriate director shall provide all members of council, we're going to go with a quarterly report from Digital C concerning the effectiveness of this program by ward if available, and will include but not be limited to installation of networks and the result of optimization audits. And number 2, renumber existing section 14 and 15 to the new section 15 and section 16. Anybody else have any other amendments that they want to make at the table?
Yes, I do.
Councilwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, some additional amendments. 12 amendments to offer here. I will read through them. So first, replace file number 585-2023-A with new file number 585-2023-B. In section 2, at the end, delete file number 585-2023-A and insert file number 585-2023-B. In section 1, at the end, am I going too fast for our attorney?
We've got it. We got a
it?
copy about this
Okay.
for you. Okay.
In section 1, at the end, insert Digital C will update the council on the status of the project every 6 months.
So we won't do that one because we did quarterly.
we're going to keep it at quarterly?
Yeah, we'll keep it
Okay,
at
so
quarterly.
disregard that amendment.
Right, we'll do
Okay.
quarterly.
So then disregard that amendment, and then in section 3, line 2, after projects, delete the 3 words, delete comma or appropriate director. So I'll read that again. In section 3, line 2, after projects, delete comma or appropriate director. Next amendment, in section 6, line 2, delete the letter S after right-of-way. In section 8, line 1, insert S after permit. In section 9, line 1, insert S after permit and S after right. Next amendment, delete section 10 in its entirety and renumber sections 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 to sections 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Next amendment, in section 12, line 2, delete and such appropriate city officials. In section 13, lines 1 and 2, delete and any other appropriate director. And then the 2 amendments Councilman Harsh is offering, in terms of the term sheet, connected households will be reported as either subsidized or unsubsidized subscriptions. That language will be added to the term sheet. And then adoption services, final amendment, adoption services will not include flyers distributed or number of doors knocked.
All right, do I have a second on the amendments? Discussions? No discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, so this was a very long, tedious process. I know, I also want to thank the council president for his leadership on this, and there was a lot of pressure put on the council, either one way or the other, but we were able to ignore outside pressure and work together and get this done for what's best for the residents of the city of Cleveland. Hopefully, Digital C is going to be the right choice, but only time will tell. But the good thing about it is that financially, our residents of the city of Cleveland won't be on the hook for any public dollars if they don't come through with what they say they're going to do. So with that being said, I want to thank the administration, thank the council president for his leadership on this, as well as letting it roll through the committee. I want to thank my committee members on this for all the hard work and dedication. Josh, you and your team, and everybody else. I think this was a very good meeting of the minds, and this is a good example of probably how a lot of government should work, right? I mean, we started at opposite ends, and we ended up in the middle. So thank you very much, and we look forward to meeting with you guys. At this point, the Utilities Committee will be adjourned until the call of the chair.